Well, good morning. It's good to see everybody in their places. Thank you so much to our colleagues who are joining us virtually today. Um, it's now time to call the roll.
Joanne Adams.
Here.
Holly Bloodworth.
Here.
Patrice McCrary.
Here.
Julie Pyle.
Here.
Randy Poe.
Here virtually.
Sharon Robinson.
Here.
Lee Todd.
Here.
Steve Trimble.
Here.
Diane Woods.
Here.
Lou Young.
Here.
Alyssa Riley.
Here.
RJ Osborne.
Here.
Secretary Link.
Present virtually.
President Thompson.
Here.
Hey, Chair, you do have a quorum.
Fabulous. Thank you so much. We'll begin today's agenda with good news, always fun sharing. Diane, would you get us started?
Certainly. 10 educators are named Kentucky Teacher of the Year semifinalists. On August 14, the Kentucky Department of Education announced the selection of 10 outstanding educators as semifinalists for the 2024 Kentucky Teacher of the Year Award. Semifinalists for the Elementary Teacher of the Year were Katie Hale, Ponderosa Elementary, Boyd County; Deanna Landrum, Southgate Public School, Southgate Independent; Justin Moreshe, Klondike Lane Elementary, Jefferson County; Donnie Wilkerson, Jamestown Elementary, Russell County. Semifinalists for the Middle School Teacher of the Year were Kevin Daly, Valley Shannon Middle, Boone County; Doug Henry, Bullitt Lick Middle, Bullitt County; Kimberly Thompson, Eastside Middle, Bullitt County. Semifinalists for the High School Teacher of the Year were Ryan Davis, Wagner High, Jefferson County; Luke Glasser, Hazard High, Hazard Independent; Kumar Rashad, Breckenridge Metropolitan High, Jefferson County. Congratulations to this year's Teacher of the Year semifinalists.
And now to the next good news, Julie.
So it is my pleasure to share that Boone County's Kevin Daly was named the 2024 Kentucky Teacher of the Year. Kevin Daly, a middle school social studies teacher at Ballyshannon Middle School in Boone County, has been named the 2024 Kentucky Teacher of the Year. The Kentucky Department of Education and Valvoline, co-sponsors of the award, announced Daly's selection at an in-person ceremony on September 13th at the Kentucky State Capitol Rotunda. Daly has taught in Boone County schools since 2021 and has been in education for the past 10 years. As a child, Daly never thought he would become a teacher, but he took a computer repair class in his sophomore year of high school with a teacher named Linda Fox, who changed his view on education and life. He said Mrs. Fox saw him for him and not for his life circumstances. Now, as the 2024 Kentucky Teacher of the Year, Daly hopes to ensure students across the Commonwealth have access to teachers who are as supportive of them as Mrs. Fox was of him. Daly was also named the 2024 Kentucky Middle School Teacher of the Year. Russell County's Donnie Wilkerson was named the Elementary School Teacher of the Year, and Jefferson County Public Schools' Kumar Rashad was named High School Teacher of the Year. As the 2024 Teacher of the Year, Daly received a $10,000 cash award, while Wilkerson and Rashad will each get $2,750. As the overall Kentucky Teacher of the Year, Daly also will receive an opportunity to serve a semester-long sabbatical with KDE and will represent the state in the National Teacher of the Year competition. The remaining 19 Teacher Achievement Award recipients each will receive $500. So we wish Kevin the best in pursuing the National Teacher of the Year. And personally, I think he has a great shot.
Those of us who had the opportunity to be present in the Capitol that day can really testify to the excitement and the I don't know, it was just professionally very gratifying to see parents and family and kids and the recognition of these amazing teachers who are, they are so proud of what they do and so passionate about their work. Patrice, let's see, Joanne, you were there, and anybody else?
I was there.
And yeah, Diane.
Yeah.
Yes, Julie.
Hey.
and Robin was there. I mean, it was just a special time. Very, very good.
Chill bump moments.
Yeah.
Yeah, really. So we've got some more moments coming with Milk and Award presentations. And so, let's stay tuned in our celebration of teachers.
Teaching.
Now we're going to celebrate a superintendent.
I love this this segment because of all of the celebrations we get to do and where we actually get to brag about the excellence within the Commonwealth, our educators and our students. And in this particular time, I want to tell you about Teresa Morgan from Hardin County. She was awarded the 2024 Superintendent of the Year award by the Kentucky Association of School Administrators. Since this is an interesting little trivia piece, since its inception in 1988, 5 women have won the Superintendent of the Year award, but 3 of those women have been from Hardin County.
Oh, my
So 3 of the 5. So Hardin County, you got it going on. The award honors district leaders for the contributions they make to public education and to students and their future. Over the past 35 years, Morgan has held various positions in the Hardin County District. She started her career as a special education teacher in 1989. Before becoming superintendent in 2016, she also served as assistant principal and director of elementary curriculum. As superintendent, and I love this initiative, as superintendent, Morgan has been a part of such initiatives as the Grow Your Own program. Grow Your Own helps encourage high school students who want to pursue a career in education. Not only have they built this program, but they have put some money behind it. As superintendent, Morgan has helped make sure that the district pays for a portion of their college tuition with the hope that they will return to the school district to teach and reinvest in the future of the community. This program is also available to school support staff, such as paraprofessionals. Congratulations to the 2024 Superintendent of the Year, Teresa Morgan. She joins famous dignitaries, including our vice chair.
how lovely. Well, continuing that celebratory tone, I will ask the Vice Chair to present the next good news item.
Yeah, I'm happy to share. Yesterday, we had the chance to talk about healthy school spaces. And so this award from the U.S. Department of Education recognizes green schools. And so they do it every year. It's very selective, highly selective. In fact, this year, only 26 schools across the U.S., 11 districts, and 4 post-secondary institutions were awarded as green ribbon schools. And we have 2 of those 26 right here in Kentucky. Cardinal Valley Elementary in Fayette County and Mary G. Hogsett Primary School in Danville Independent were recognized as green ribbon schools this year. The award from the U.S. Department of Education honors those schools that raise the bar around sustainable energy practice, but they're also awarded because they incorporate sustainability and energy conservation and use as part of the curriculum in the school. So I've seen that happen several times, and it's when the school itself becomes hands-on learning. So I love that symbiotic relationship. The award goes to schools focused on 3 pillars: reducing the environmental impact and cost, the footprint, as we say, improving the health and wellness of students and staff. Talked a lot about that yesterday. And thirdly, providing effective environmental and sustainability education, incorporating STEM ed and green career pathways. So really a student-focused effort, not just about the buildings themselves. So congratulations to the teams from Cardinal Valley Elementary and Hogsett Primary in Danville.
That is. And RJ, please, would you share your good news item?
Yes, ma'am. A Carlisle County bus driver, known as community for his acts of kindness, was presented the 2023 Fred Award on July
Oh,
20th.
yeah.
It is named after Fred Shea, a postal carrier, who's the focus of a book written by Mark Sanborn. The award recognizes the Kentucky school employees who go above and beyond their job and performance and their duties. Thomas has been a part of the Carlisle School District for most of his life. He was a student, teacher, and became a bus driver in the early 80s. After nearly 41 years as a bus driver, he's impacted the lives of many throughout the community. His acts of kindness include creating scrapbooks for athletes and memorial plaques when someone loses a loved one, and baking treats for his coworkers. Finalists for the award must embody the guiding principles: make a positive difference every day, have a heart for people, change ordinary moments into memorable ones, and lead by example.
Oh, how
Oh,
lovely. So it's just really gratifying to take the time to celebrate these acts of kindness, acts of professional responsibility, and acts of extraordinary professional practice, and the student achievement that comes from all of that. So thank you so much, colleagues, for sharing. And this part of our agenda is it's called board sharing. Because it is an opportunity for board members to raise issues, not particularly on this agenda, but issues, questions, concerns, matters that perhaps should be on an agenda, and perhaps giving us a early heads up to matters that we need to prepare our own learning in order to address. So at this time, are there any comments or moments of board sharing that you want to bring forward? Yes.
I'll mention one thing. It's not along those lines. It's just a heads up on what is coming up in Warren County. On Monday, October 16th, I have the opportunity to attend a groundbreaking. The former Cumberland Trace Elementary School, where I taught for 26 and a half years, was torn down. So it's been bittersweet, but knowing what's going up in its place is incredible. And Lee, you'll be glad to hear this. It is a new leadership and innovation center where it's pulling in community members, WKU members, and it's going to meet the needs of our students where they can apply to attend this center and prepare them for the future in just absolutely marvelous, innovative ways. So it's going to be a state-of-the-art facility, and I cannot think of anything better going in the place of a much loved spot. So I'm excited. So it'll be fun to watch and see what happens. with it.
Thank you for sharing. Yeah.
Yeah, I wish I were able to join you. That is going to be a fabulous center. And I will tell you, having worked with Warren this past spring, that they've really leveraged and catalyzed the Portrait of a Learner in the process to engage their community. Hundreds of community members have been involved in conversations about establishing the new center. So
Yes.
it's going to be it's going to be a school to watch for sure when it
Very
comes to
collaborative
what that
effort.
20
Mhm.
mid 21st century school could be. So
Yeah, it's exciting.
Yes, please,
I
Holly.
just wanted to say how much I enjoyed and appreciated the opportunity to attend my regional board meeting.
Oh, good.
I was able to address the group for a few minutes and just connect with a lot of people that I represent. That, I mean, I live in Murray, so it's like just meeting those superintendents and other board members from my region was really good. And then be able to participate in some conversations at tables. It was a really great meeting, and I loved doing it.
Fabulous. Thank you so much for giving us that feedback. It is that it's a nice way to be able to see so many of them and in a social environment.
Without driving to Frankfurt.
Right.
Yes.
Dr. Poe has his hand
Oh,
raised.
great. Thank you. Dr. Poe.
Yes, just like Holly, I was appreciative to attend the Northern Kentucky Kentucky School Board Association regional meeting, and Ms. Pyle was there also with me, and she delivered our goals and some of our objectives there to the group. So it was a great event. I think one of the things that on a future agenda that I would like to see is more information. I keep hearing from some of the legislators in and around a math plan, just like our literacy plan that we did this year. So I would like to hear from our department representatives about what we are doing in the future in relationship to moving our math scores and increasing our math scores within the state.
Thank you, Randy. Everybody is nodding. We see that on the near horizon as we're ready to talk, I believe, right, Commissioner?
Yes.
All right. Anybody else?
I would add, similar, along the same vein of Ms. Bloodworth's comment, that the opportunity for us to be sitting in with various advisory groups and constituency groups to begin the conversations about what folks want to see in our new commissioner. Had a chance to be at the Education Professional Standards Board, bless you, Todd, on Monday, and too early to share any of the feedback, but to say that the process, I think, has been really helpful, and another opportunity for us to get out either online or in person to meet with folks and have these conversations face to face is really helpful. So that dynamic, I think, has been good. I know we had some pre-meeting conversations too, probably time for us to start digging into the questions related to kind of the future makeup of the board and reappointments, appointments, and trying to put that puzzle pieces together. Dr. Brewer.
It's quite a puzzle.
It is a puzzle. It's 3D.
3D puzzle. Yes.
So I would just like to kind of reiterate, I attended the regional meeting with Randy. I attended the family, I forget what that committee was called. Dr. Brewer was there with me on feedback for the commissioner. Couple of personal items I wasn't able to attend. I believe it was the September 14th meeting when we named Robin as interim commissioner, because I was at a personal event, which if you ever have the opportunity to do this, a young man who a village has been surrounding him was naturalized.
Oh, that's awesome.
And to attend a naturalization ceremony for a young gentleman was just incredible. And then the other day, so I had mentioned in the past that I'm president of our local Rotary Club. And so last week I got to meet my little first grade reading buddy, and he is adorable. And so I can't wait to get in there every weekend and start reading with him. It's a club initiative. And so it takes our community to work with our schools because they can't do it all by themselves.
Good for you. Fabulous.
That's great.
I'd just like to share some good news. At this time, I've had the privilege of attending the Continuous Improvement Summit for 2 days, and it was amazing. I wanted to go back into the classroom. The information, everything, research-based, best practice, and 900 plus, I think, was the number of individuals across the state. And no one was sitting there with their newspaper or, off task. Everybody was really engaged. The sessions were, we were running from one session to the next, so we'd have a seat.
Yes.
And, just scoot over a little bit, and step aside. COVID's not rampant right now. But just as I thought that we have a Kentucky Department of Education. We are the Kentucky Board of Education. But we have a Kentucky Department of Education that is actually implementing those, I'm using my words here, all the initiatives and the strategies and the global things that we come up with, they're what, the rubber meets the road.
Exactly.
They're boots on the ground doing the work. And there just has to be some way that we can be as a board, in my opinion, and I'm new, so I'll play that new card again, being more active and more proactive in sharing what they're doing. Because one of the, Mike Miller yesterday, I met him. We sat beside each other at the Continuous Improvement Conference. And I said, well, I'm on the Kentucky Board of Education now. And he was sharing what he did. And the fellowship, and it was just a good feel. I think we go to a lot of conferences, but in my opinion, we need to be at some of these conferences where we're seeing what is actually happening for our children in this state. So, my sermon is done, but that's my position I'm going to stand on.
So let's just put a pin in that and work with Dr. Brewer and Commissioner Kenny, to see how we can support more board representation and engagement. I have to say, you folks have taken to it really, really well.
I know, I love it.
And we had not really tried to step out there
Yeah.
before. And, you know, I think it's fair to say that in this time of transition, we come to this with some trepidation. Because there are lots of unanswered questions and some questions that are unanswerable right now. And they may be the very questions with which you are confronted. But I have to say, you are a very intrepid crew and ready to go out there. And I believe that for us to be part of taking the message to those that we serve. And while, yes, there's plenty work left to do, plenty of challenges to be taken up, we need to at least be part of telling the story
Yeah.
of what we are doing and the progress that we are making. Because I have to say, we are making progress with letters and, you know, I mean, so it's encouraging. It gives you the strength, the foundation from which to take on the next challenge and the next phase. So let's take all this to heart and see where we go next and how we address our next challenges.
Chair
Yes,
Johnson.
I'm
Yeah.
having Dr. Poe. Oh, Dr. Poe. Okay.
Yes, I just want to say, yes, I agree with a fellow board member there. One of the things that I think the department needs to do, because I think this is what Commissioner Glass reminded or said, you know, when I first started, that, you know, we've got to remember, as was just stated, there's the Kentucky Department of Education and the Kentucky Board of Education. And a lot of the different committees and the different things or the conferences are the Kentucky Department of Education. And we should not just show up at an event, we should be invited to an event, or that the commissioner knows what events we're doing and kind of coordinates those so that they don't feel all of a sudden that the Kentucky board is moving into administration versus our authority board, you know, voting on different things. So I would just say I want to attend more things, but at the same time, when we're there, if we're representing the Kentucky Board of Education, the commissioner needs to know that we're attending those different events or invited to those different events. So we do keep our two roles separately, because as we stated yesterday, we can't have a quorum at some of these things if we're participating as a board member versus participating as a citizen at those particular functions. You can't separate the two. So we got to be cautious of how many people attend a certain thing. And if we're in a participation role versus just attending a role, there's, you know, those two different things as we've had our training in the past. So just wanted to bring that up, that I love the fact that we need to get there. We just needed to, if we're doing it somehow, we need to make sure that KBE is involved and the commissioner knows where we're attending or not attending or what function as a Kentucky board member.
Please.
Thank you.
Commissioner.
First, Diana, thank you so much for your kind words about the work that was done by the department staff at the Continuous Improvement Summit. There were over 900 people there, and I was there for a short time as well, and you could just feel the energy and I was one of those people that I rushed to get into a room and I was too late. And so I had to go to another equally exciting and, in fact, almost fateful that I ended up in the room I was in, because what I ended up listening to has very direct practical application to this role that I am acting as in the interim. So it was just one of those fate things, I guess, that I was in the right place at the right time. I appreciate the thought about process. You know, we love having Kentucky board members come and see the work that department staff are doing. And really, it is sort of so that you can visually obtain what we talk about here, how it's actually put into practice, or implementation. And I think that's what I'm hearing from you,
Yes.
that it's good to see that what we talk about here in this room is actually hitting the ground with our educators and ultimately our students. So it translates really well. So I think the benefit of you all seeing that is very high, that you actually see what's happening. We do appreciate, that we can kind of coordinate those visits with you so that we do make sure that we don't infringe on our quorums, and that we can make sure that you have the opportunity to see us in action. So I think everything that's been said is perfectly appropriate. And we look forward, if you have things that you hear about that you would like us to see, if we can arrange for you to attend the right place at the right time, we're happy to do that.
Thank you, Commissioner Kenny. Any further board sharing items before we get into our reports? Thank you so much. I think all of this has been really illuminating and appreciated. If we will, I'd like to call on the President of the Council of Post-Secondary Education, Dr. Thompson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good morning, Board. Commissioner Kenny, good to see you. Welcome aboard. I think I sent you a note, but if I didn't, I'm remiss. Okay, good. My life has been nothing but busy here lately. Glad to have you in that seat. Looking forward to working with you. Lots of stuff going on. I could take a long time telling you, but I know you really don't want me to do that, so I'll just do some quick updates. You probably know by now we were able to hire a president at Northern Kentucky University, Katie Short Thompson, who was at Northern before between 1996 and 2010 as the dean of the Blue Ash campus. She previously served as provost of Hope College. So we're happy to have her on board. Randy, you and your team there, I'm sure, will be working with her closely. But it's time to get going up there, and she's anxious to do so. I also served on the search committee that hired our next president at KCTCS. I was on the search committee until it got to the board, then the board decided. And Dr. Ryan Quarles, as you know who he is, has now been hired. And once again, he should start by January 1, but he's out talking to people now. So we're hoping to start moving the process of having KCTCS becoming even more integral into, this next many decades. You also know about SJR 98, in which CPE was assigned to look at the next edition of higher education in Kentucky. We will have that report finished up by December 1 when we present it. You may remember the three parts of that. One part was to look at whether or not we should have a four-year institution in Eastern or Southeastern Kentucky. The next part, whether we should have a board governing all of higher education, one governing board. And the third one was to look at KCTCS and its governance system and whether or not the transfer courses should be moving to the four-year institutions. So we will be making recommendations on all of that by December 1. And that, I will tell you, has taken up a lot of time in addition to all the other stuff we've been doing. We've also been doing a lot of convenings here lately. We had the summer bridge convening. As you all know, during COVID and when we got some ARPA monies, KBE gave CPE some dollars to work on helping our young folk who are coming out of high school make sure that they were skilled up. So those programs are all around the state, and we've had three, and they've 3 years in a row, and what success they've been. It's just been absolutely wonderful. So we had a convening at the University of Louisville where we were celebrating some of those achievements, and that went over extremely well. You probably also know, for the last 5 years, we've been looking at how can we build leadership within Kentucky in higher education. And we're especially looking at our underrepresented faculty and staff to do that. So we created a faculty mentoring program at CPE called the Academic Leadership Development Institute. It's called ALDI. We just named our latest cohort for that group. And our goal there is to prepare minoritized faculty and staff for leadership roles. This is an area where I think we have not done a good job in higher education in making sure that we had a pipeline or a pathway, if you want to call it that, to have many of our folk who are within our own walls be able to understand how to get to that point of holding a leadership position. And our Dr. Dawn Offit is leading that from our unit. But over the years, many of these folks that have been in the ALDI program have succeeded and moved on to significant positions within higher education. And that really makes me happy. So we just named our latest cohort, and we have 21 participants in this latest cohort. You may have read, I'm sure you did, I'm sure you read Forbes, but Kentucky, and me specifically, was written about in Forbes from Jamie Marisotis, who's the head of the Lumina Foundation, talking about some of the things that we're doing in higher education in Kentucky to really change the land and the way that higher education is perceived and the value of higher education. If you get a chance, please go back and read it. I talk about the choir and why we need to do a better job of bringing more people into it and helping them to sing better. So if you get a chance, read that. It really does feature Kentucky and some of the great things we're doing to make that happen. And the education continuum is very much a part of that. We also, in an effort to increase student enrollment, CPE has created a toolkit for school districts, as many of you already know, and we've been doing webinars on that. And the last webinar took place October 3rd, called Improving Advising, Eliminating Random Acts of Dual Credit. So, you know, we have a new dual credit policy, and in that policy, we're really being very what I call strategic in making sure that people that have been left out of dual credit gets the opportunity to get in dual credit. And an example of that is that we are the first state that was able to look at the effect dual credit had on college completion. And we found out, for an example, that if a student of color, especially if an African American student, had chances to have dual credit in high school, they actually achieved higher than those students that in the past have always achieved higher than that population. So, but we looked at dual credit and found out we were not getting as many African Americans to get in the pipeline. So we're able to use our data to create a continuous improvement process with your districts to make sure that we are building that pipeline in a very strategic way, while at the same time making sure that, number two, that those courses are really aligned toward a path that students can see value in those dual credits way beyond just taking the course. We also did the performance funding work group. This is our third iteration of it. Every 3 years, we've had to come back and look at the success or not success of what's going on and what we needed to do to change. Many of you know that the performance funding has had an effect on our accountability and what we're doing in higher education, and it's actually been very much helpful in having Kentucky being number 2 in the country in completion, and we're proud of that distinction. But we've also, you probably know that we had it designed in a way that you get a kicker or more if you we're able to graduate a student of color, graduate a low-income student, and graduate someone in the STEM H area. You probably have heard me say over and over again that Kentucky looks like we're leading in gap closing with our underrepresented populations. Most of our institutions now are at an 80% retention rate. Our graduation rates have increased significantly in both 4-year and 2-year, and our students of color have outpaced the other populations. So we're still a long way to close that gap, but we are closing it. But when we looked at the data, we found out that our low-income students weren't doing so well. So, I mean, they were doing well, but not as well as we hoped that they would do with the kicker. So in this edition of performance funding, the legislature, they have to put it in law, of course, we increased our low income rate from 3% to 8%. And what that means is an extra, and Lee, you will understand this well, that means on top of just having the money you get for graduating someone, if it's a low income person, in the past you were getting like 1,500 extra dollars. Now you'll be getting close to 5,000 extra dollars in that pot. So we're hoping that will work. We also put in an adult learner metric, which is important because we've lost 60,000 adult learners in the last many years, and that's a population that we have to get where we need to get. And you know, that's 60% of our population with a credential that matters by 2030. Now, I'm happy to say our latest data, we're at 54.3%, which we're celebrating that a little bit. So we've come a long way in the last 5 or 6 years, but we still have a long way to go. So we'll see. Hopefully, we did get the Senate leadership, the House leadership, the governor's office, and all the presidents on board with these changes in performance funding. So we hope to get it through. We just finished our healthcare collaboratory yesterday, in which, you know, the General Assembly gave us $10 million 2 years ago to really work on creating healthcare pipelines in Kentucky. And we were able to get 48 healthcare partners from all across Kentucky with our campuses, and they have put in $50 million. And when we compare, we are up overall in enrollment this fall, by the way. Kentucky was the first state to actually bounce back from COVID in enrollment. And I'll give you some bad news here in a second, but we got our partners. And so in that process, if you look at the enrollment in the healthcare areas, they're up higher than the overall enrollment in the overall enrollment in those areas. So we're happy with what's going on so far, but we have a long way to go. You know, HB 200 was passed, so we're hoping that that gets funded. Our healthcare partners already have agreed to put in many millions of dollars in that pot. So we are looking forward to actually having another collaboratory next year. Madam Chair, there's a whole lot more that I can talk to you about, but I'm sure you're tired of me talking, and so I'll take any questions you may have.
Dr. Thompson, it's always good to hear your report because the momentum is certainly a characteristic of what we get out of the CPE, and it's really great to partner with you. I'm going to ask if there is any hope of your joining us in seeing that teacher education gets a little bump in the performance funding formula, in that the clinical component is getting ever so much more important to retention, that maybe we can partner on trying to get the formula to recognize the significance of the impact of clinical partnerships and supporting those out in the community.
Well, the performance funding model, I will tell you, we won't be opening that again for 3 years, but
that might not be the pot, huh?
but we are very much anxious to work with you, and we're already talking with our legislature about how we can get those dollars with a strategic process to increase teacher education, teacher recruitment, and so on. So that is an important thing for me to say. I can't believe I didn't say that. We're spending a lot of time exactly in that particular area. And Commissioner Kenny, I hope we can get together and make sure that we're all on the same page in doing that and speaking from the same book, if you will. But it is, Chair, it's important for us to do that. And we know that we're going to have to do some things without money. We're going to have to look at policies we can change. We're going to have to look at our teacher prep programs that we can change. And we're going to have to work with our districts to make sure that folks have an opportunity, not just on the back end, but on the front end to do exactly that. I would love to have a similar model with teachers education and with our districts as we've done with our healthcare partners.
Mhm.
Absolutely. That's a good, very, very good model. Appreciate it. Thank you for joining us today.
Chair Robinson?
Yes.
Dr. Poe has a question.
Dr. Poe? You had a question?
Yes, always. Love to hear Dr. Thompson speak. I'm always appreciative of the work that post-secondary is doing. A couple things that I wanted to just follow up with that great report you just gave is one, if you, I've got 3 questions, so I'll give them to you at one time because I know you can put them all together and save us time. If you could expand a little bit on the new dual credit policy. You said there's a new dual credit policy so that we kind of know what that is. Second thing is you well know, we have our fall and spring convening up here. And one of the things we're doing is the winds of change, turn those wins into wins for us. And what we're going to be talking about post-secondary is the other things. So if you could potentially send me some of the data that you just talked about so I can incorporate that into our convening. But the other thing that I thought was very interesting is you were saying, in your funding formula, increasing that. I was wondering, on that same line, how do we in K-12 then, how can we look at our accountability system that rewards dual credit too? Not just dual credit in that they're a completer, but how do we actually raise our standards and we're breaking down that silo so we can continue to help you out? Because I know that pin that you're wearing is the one like us that higher education matters. So enrollment is important. And I think once a student of that underrepresented minority that you spoke of does take a class and they say, hey, I can do this, we now have them where we wouldn't have got them before. So I really think dual credit is one of those vehicles that we can continue to let students know that no matter what it is, whether it's in our community colleges or whether it's in our 4-year institutions, that they can do it. It's kind of like the same thing in when we said, take the ACT. Well, now you can make it, but are we really then pushing them out? So if you could just talk about what you think about or expand about the new dual credit policy a little bit so I can understand that a little bit more and the potential about how we can K-12 and post-secondary partner to make sure that our districts and everybody understands the value of dual credit that you just said, that turns, dual credit turns into completers. Completers turn into increasing that completion rate that you're talking about, because I know at one time it was 37% when you guys started this, and we're almost doubling that right now. So how do we get that up? Because I remember going to Georgia State University about 3 or 4 years ago, where they went from somewhere 37% to 67%, and they were seen, just the university was seen as a model. I would love to see all of Kentucky be seen as a model for how we're getting under minorities represented, because their average ATC score at Georgia State at the time was 19, not 24 like our tier 1 universities are, but their completion rate was 67%. So,
well, you did ask a lot of questions. I'm going to hit them hard and fast. One is that we'll be happy to give you all the data, but you'll help me by copying Amanda in also, right? You know this, so you'll have to help me there. We'll give you all of that. Number two, I think it is important for us to talk about how do we do alignment. I know Madam Chair, we were talking about how we align even the profile of a graduate with the graduate profile, which I didn't mention, which is going gangbusters. We have all of our 16 community colleges and all of our 4-year institutions involved. But number two, how do we do that with dual credit? We know that now your schools are using dual credit heavily for their last year, at least, right? In many cases, your junior year. We know that. We have the data. We can see that. So our policy goes to, and I'll come back to accountability after I make this statement. Our policy goes to how do we do a better alignment with you to make sure that those courses are needed for a student to get in the pathway. This is especially with some of our technical courses, as well as our gen ed. We were having students having 30, 35, some cases 40 hours of courses that they took that they thought they all were going to be accepted when they get to that institution. Well, they were accepted, but as free electives in many cases and not in the majors. So the policy heavily focuses on alignment and pathways in that regard. So that, and then working with the counselors and others within K-12 institutions to make sure that students have an opportunity to get in those. A lot of information given and ways that they can do it and how they can pay for it. The last piece on accountability, I think, is very important. If higher ed is that deep into K-12 and we're showing really success in many ways with those dual credits. One, I didn't even say that now, once again, we're at a 4-year degree for a 4-year degree versus we used to measure on 6 years. Who would have ever thought that, right? Again, that's a big one. And now we're at a 2-year degree for a 2-year degree in our community colleges instead of 3-year. So how do we do a better alignment, not only with the success and the pathways, but with the accountability? And I think that is an area that I would ask this board to truly consider as one of the big pieces. Right now, the accountability system talks about if you take a course, but how do we actually use it in toto as a way of saying that right now, if you're coming out of high school, that high school graduation just doesn't matter that much anymore. I hate to say it in that way. You're going to have some college credential of some sort to be able to actually sustain yourself into the workforce for a long period of time. I mean, yes, you can get an apprenticeship, Jamie, and go into it, but we even found out in those cases, you're going to have to come back for a skill up, even with that. So I think that's the conversation, Dr. Poe, that you're really posing. How do we do a better alignment on those things that we already have in place? I got a chance to be the keynote speaker at launch in Indianapolis, where we talked a lot about exactly that, how K-12 and higher ed can better align along those lines.
Thank you very much.
That's a really, really good way to segue into the report of Secretary Link as we think about the K-12 higher ed and workforce dimensions of all of this, because this is the heartbeat of the economy that we're talking about. So if you don't mind, I'd like to ask Secretary Link if he would present his report.
I would, Madam Chair, and thank you. Good morning. Dr. Thompson, always good to see you as well. A personal plug, congratulations to Commissioner Kinney. There is no greater fan of Robin Kinney than Jamie Link, so I'm very happy that she is in that role. And I'll go quickly. A lot of the things I have are probably repetitive from previous reports, but that's kind of what our cabinet does. We churn constantly, pursuing workforce development, training opportunities, educational opportunities for Kentucky workers, and matching skill sets with employer needs. Administratively, like all cabinets in state government, our budget has been submitted. Our legislative agenda has been submitted. We are currently scheduling meetings with legislators to talk about workforce issues and get feedback from them about what they're thinking about so that we can kind of align the governor's agenda with any legislative ideas to try to get everybody on the same page and pursue a collaborative workforce agenda, because you've probably heard me say before, and I think we all believe, workforce development and training is nonpartisan. It's not Republican or Democrat. It's a Kentucky issue, and I want to treat it that way. Our Everybody Counts high school program has begun again in earnest with the new school year. We're currently in 5 districts and continuing to look for additional districts to expand in both Eastern Kentucky and Western Kentucky, and also in South Central Kentucky. So those 3 areas. But we also want to align what we're doing with our Everybody Counts program, or the governor's Everybody Counts program, with the local workforce investment boards, and maximizing the use of resources from the local boards with our Everybody Counts teams and coaches, and also maximizing the funding resources we have available to have the greatest impact we can on getting young people on that pathway to a good career. A couple of highlights, that good news items. Perhaps I should have done them earlier, but we did celebrate the 50th anniversary of the Carl Perkins Vocational Training Center in Thelma, Kentucky, just outside of Paintsville. And it's quite a remarkable story about that center there, with the job training programs for people with disabilities. And it was really a humbling event to attend, and had the original director of the Perkins Center that was there to speak as well. Also happy to report that our Office of Adult Education, pending verification from U.S. Department of Education, has met all 5 of their performance measures in the last fiscal year. So that was a great accomplishment for them as well. I'm actually meeting with Dr. Hargis and her team this afternoon to continue discussing apprenticeship opportunities and other career and technical education opportunities that we can work collaboratively on to assist young people in pursuing, and not necessarily young people, if older workers are looking for a career change and looking for training opportunities. We want to help them as well through registered apprenticeship programs. The governor recently announced a program called Jobs on Day One in collaboration with Secretary Kerry Harvey of the Justice and Public Safety Cabinet. And the intent of Jobs on Day One is to begin skills assessment and skills training for justice-involved individuals who will be coming out of incarceration, working with them before their release date, and then working with the employer community so that when that person leaves that institution, they have a job waiting for them. And then it's not just turning them over to the employer and hoping things go well. It's providing a support mechanism after they're employed to make sure that justice-involved individual is staying on track, and they have the resources they need from counseling or other services to assist them in beginning a new pathway in life. We continue our efforts with veteran recruitment. Fort Campbell, Fort Knox, Bluegrass Army Depot, as they wind down on the weapons destruction program there, helping transitioning service members move into private sector employment, or public sector employment for that matter. And then also we have just recently signed a contract through the Kentucky Department of Libraries and Archives with the Dolly Parton Imagination Library that we're very excited about. I've got a new T-shirt with Dolly on it, and I'm hoping to meet her sometime soon. And then I'll conclude one of our, and you've heard me talk before about trying to get our arms around workforce initiatives. And there are a lot of great partners, a lot of great workforce agencies across the Commonwealth, but sometimes I fear we step on one another. I fear we have redundancies in what we're trying to do. I feel like sometimes we make multiple calls on employers because we're not talking to one another. So over the past several months, the Education and Labor Cabinet, in conjunction with the Cabinet for Economic Development, CPE, KDE and their Career and Technical Education Program, the Kentucky Workforce Innovation Board, KCTCS, the Kentucky Association of Manufacturers, the local workforce boards, and I think importantly, the Kentucky Chamber of Commerce. We are all meeting regularly to collaborate and develop a comprehensive, hopefully a comprehensive workforce development program where we are sharing information, we are collaborating, we are meeting with employers regularly but regularly to ascertain their employee needs, their skills needs, and then utilizing that information to bring that back into the workforce development pipeline to fill that pipeline with qualified workers who have the skills that our employers are looking for. And as those skills needs change with technology or advancements in manufacturing or other sectors of the economy, be it healthcare, be it teaching, be it early childhood care, whatever the case may be, that we are doing everything we can to fulfill the needs that employers have currently and going into the future. So with that, I know we're running a little bit behind. I'll conclude my update, but I'm happy to address any questions the board may have.
Thank you so much, Secretary Link. It's always interesting. Your report always helps to bring back to us a sense of the whole, if you will, and the entirety of the picture, the tapestry that we're all contributing to. And it's good to know that somebody's keeping an eye on the whole thing coming together as it should. It's really fascinating work. And thank you for sharing with us. Are there any questions for Secretary Link at this time? Stay tuned.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I have not forgotten about the JAG program. We are pursuing that as well. You and I talked about that at Del Hollow. So that is still moving forward.
My heart's by the beat of my heart, if you will. Thank you so much. We look forward to catching up on that.
Yes, ma'am.
Now we have the distinction of hearing our first board report from our commissioner.
Thank you very much. Thank you first to Secretary Link and to Dr. Thompson for their kind words of support and encouragement. I really look forward to working with both of them on sort of the issues that we've outlined, higher education and also the workforce, and how important the linkages from us to each of them as far as impacting our students. My report today, I'm going to focus on our state-operated schools. You know, we had a great report from Dr. Poe yesterday, and those of you that got to attend, and I'm not going to get into the competition of whose minute was best because they were both great. But we are fortunate that we're going to have that regular standing committee to really focus on our state-operated schools and sort of the things that those schools are doing to really positively impact our students each and every day. I'm going to share a little bit, just like all other schools, our schools have started and they're underway. I'm going to share a few things about KSB and KSD from both the athletic side, because we know that's important to our students, and also from the instructional side. So at KSB, they are the Wildcats. And at KSB, track and field is the first sport of the year for them. 15 students are practicing and competing in the Ohio State School for the Blind Invitational in Columbus, Ohio. The track team also traveled to the Tennessee School for the Blind in Nashville to compete in the North Central Association of Schools for the Blind Track and Field Conference competitions. And then on the instructional side, We have, in collaboration with the American Printing House for the Blind, which is a wonderful, wonderful partner with KSB. KSB Outreach is planning the first Abacus Bee for students, which will take place prior to Thanksgiving. The Abacus introduces early math concepts and support skills such as addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division. Abacus training helps children gain procedural fluency and work through complex math equations with an accessible, manipulative tool at their fingertips. So congratulations to all the staff and students at Kentucky School for the Blind. We're proud of you for getting school underway and tackling those athletics as well. The Kentucky School for the Deaf, a quick update on them. They are the Colonels. KSD's 2023-24 volleyball and cross-country teams made a strong comeback after a 2-year break due to the COVID pandemic. Our Colonels fought with honor and determination, making us extremely proud. And on the instructional side, middle school students participating in this really cool team building activity. This is performance-based learning. Get this. Each class had 15 minutes to build the tallest structure using only toothpicks and marshmallows. The Ravenclaw team built the tallest structure at 11.5 inches, beating the second place Gryffindor team by just a hair. It was a great competition. The students exhibited teamwork, communication skills, problem solving, and geometry skills. We may have some future architects and engineers coming from KSD. Now let's switch to the Kentucky Tech District of Area Technology Centers, our ATCs. The 50 state-operated ATCs are continuing to provide relevant and rigorous career and technical instruction to over 20,000 students. Please join me in congratulating Cade Moore. Cade is the Kentucky Transportation Cabinet's first ever aviation engineering scholarship student, and he's an ATC student. Cade is a 2020 Corbin graduate who completed the aerospace engineering pathway at Corbin ATC with instructor Roger Taylor. Yeah, we can clap for that one. Also, you'll recognize some words in this next shout out. In response to many of our valued community partners expressing the lack of critical soft skills in the workplace, the Lake Cumberland Regional College and Workforce Center ATC is rolling out a, drum roll, profile of an LCRCWC student. ATC Principal Sarah Roy shared using the acronym CASH, characteristics, attitudes, skills, and habits. Our staff will be focusing on embedding these critical skills in the classroom to help students be successful in their future. That's super cool.
Yeah.
Lastly, congratulations are in order for Warren County graduate Macy Larsons, who received a $4,000 scholarship from the Micro Works Foundation. She also received a $3,000 scholarship from the American Welding Society, a $3,000 scholarship from Women in Welding, and a $500 high school welding competition scholarship from the Tulsa School of Welding. Our congratulations to Macy. That one's worth a. Chair Robinson, this concludes my summary remarks. My full report can be found in the board's portal, and I'm happy to entertain any questions that members may have at this time.
Well, thank you so much, Commissioner Kinney. Now, this morning has been just full of reasons to clap, reasons to smile, with a hint of provocative challenges on the horizon. So just tell us in your first week in this chair, do you have any forecast of provocative things on the horizon? Ready for?
Well, yeah. Well, I think the very important role of an interim is to keep things keeping on. We have a lot of important work underway. As I think about the things that we are tackling together, of course, we're trying to continue to advance thoughts and that discussion from United We Learn. Profile of a learner, we've heard repeatedly in our discussions yesterday, and I'm sure we'll hear more about that today. We have a lot on the horizon as far as just preparing for the next biennial budget. and the next legislative session. So some of the things that I've been working with my team is really trying to be visible and accessible. Visiting with legislators, we've lined up some opportunities for us to go and share with them the good work of the department. Really appreciate you all passing your goals and also kind of the one pager from yesterday. Brian Perry and I will carry those with us wherever we go and talk about the needs of the department, but more importantly, the needs of our districts and our students. So we'll be focusing on that. And just the transition that we're going through. This is another transition point for all of us with an interim coming in. I'd like to say we're getting pretty good at transition, but at the same time, it is challenging and it's a little scary for people. So really trying to reassure our local school districts and reassure the staff here, parents, families, that we will stay on the right course. And most importantly, of course, we're going to find our next new great permanent commissioner for the Kentucky Department of Education. So our plates are full, just like they always are in education. The plate is full, and we'll just keep the ship upright and keep us, moving forward.
So where I come from, we'd say hallelujah. Thank you so
Thank you very much.
Continuing in this vein, we are learning a lot, and learning is such an affirming, reassuring, happy dynamic. And I'm going to call on my colleague, Vice Chair Young, to introduce the next item.
Thank you so much, and I appreciate the opportunity to do this. So we are going to turn our attention to the item on Special Olympics Kentucky and Unified Champion Schools. We have a lot of presenters and guests with us today, so I'll ask Karen and those who are presenting to come up to the table with the microphone, and then everybody else here with Special Olympics today, we got a couple of rows of seats in the front. If you all would come up so that we can hear from you about this work. Board members, I would call your attention to this item in the portal. And if you haven't had a chance to see these 3 documents yet, they are nice and succinct pieces of information about the work of Unified Champion Schools across Kentucky and across the nation. I was thrilled, Karen, to see that there is a piece in here about the alignment of Unified Champion Schools efforts with Kentucky United We Learn. So that's just an example of how on top of things, Special Olympics Kentucky and Unified Champion Schools team folks are. I would also want to just let folks know that I have had the privilege of working with Unified Champion Schools and Special Olympics. Dr. Betty Edwards, who's with us today, a former associate commissioner here at the department, standing up. Betty, if you'd wave to everybody back there so they can see that this is not your old stomping grounds because we're not on Miro Street, but Dr. Edwards and the team from Special Olympics International invited me to serve on a national group called the National Education Leadership Network to support the work of Unified Champion Schools, promoting Unified Champion Schools across the U.S. and beyond, and then working closely with the team from Special Olympics International. And I will tell you that it has been an eye-opening and highly gratifying experience for me to learn about this work. If you guys just scan the documents that are there, you'll see so many things that resonate with the heart and mind of the members of this board in terms of inclusivity. We know that diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging is a pillar of the work that we do at the department and at this board. And I know of no better example nationally or internationally of in social inclusion than what happens in Special Olympics and more specifically in Unified Champion Schools. So here in Kentucky, we have 90 plus schools that are participating in Unified Champion Schools work, which is a school-wide endeavor, including leadership. It's not just about athletics, but of course, Special Olympics is an incredibly important part of the work. You'll see some of our Olympians and Unified Champion School leaders on the presentation panel today. So I just can't prime you enough for the deliciousness of the work that's happening through Unified Champion School. So I hope I've set you up for success. And Karen, if you would just have everybody introduce themselves and then jump right in.
Hello, I'm Karen Mikulak Parsley. I'm the director of Unified Champion Schools for Special Olympics Kentucky. My name is Jamie Tiller, and I'm the unified sponsor at East Carter High School in Carter County, Kentucky.
From East Carter High School.
Excellent.
I'm Maddie Rice. I'm from East Carter High School. I'm Courtney Bass. I'm from Bullitt East High School.
Excellent.
Hi, my name is Olivia. I'm at Bullitt East High School.
Excellent.
I am Christina Minton. I am also a unified sponsor at Bullitt East High School.
And I will tell you that Bullitt East and Carter County are two nationally recognized Unified Champion Schools, high schools. Bullitt actually had ESPN in for the celebration a couple of years ago. So stellar examples of the work right here with Carter County and Bullitt County.
Well, thank you. Good morning.
Good morning.
Thank you for the opportunity to speak with you today. As I said, I'm Karen Mikulak Parsley. I'm the Director of Unified Champion Schools for Special Olympics Kentucky. I hope the documents that we provided in advance offered a glimpse at Unified Champion Schools, otherwise known as UCS. But we are here today in the hopes the board will see Special Olympics Kentucky as a viable community partner to your DEIB goals. Unified Champion Schools began 16 years ago and is a school-based strategy aimed at improving social inclusion in the school environment. It brings together students with and without intellectual disabilities to participate in activities within 3 components, those being unified sports, whole school engagement, and inclusive youth leadership. It is student-led to ensure students have a voice in creating an inclusive school. We are funded on a national level by the U.S. Department of Special Education, and Kentucky receives a portion of those funds to directly support our schools. Today, there are over 9,000 Unified Champion Schools in the U.S. In Kentucky, there are almost 100 schools, which spans 54 school districts and 40 counties. Last year alone, we had over 2,000 unified sports experiences and have a vital partnership with the KHSAA, who supports unified track and unified bowling at the state level. We also recently collaborated with the Office of Special Education and Early Learning to obtain funds to grow our newest activity, unified robotics. Wow. Unified Champion Schools is annually evaluated by the Center for Social Development and Education at UMass Boston. And I wanted to share a few numbers from our last report indicating how school liaisons in Kentucky rated the value and influence of UCS. 80% of school liaisons categorized Unified Champion Schools as very valuable to students with intellectual disabilities, and 69% categorized it as very valuable to students without intellectual disabilities. 74% rated UCS as making a big difference when it comes to increasing opportunities for students with and without intellectual disabilities to work together. And finally, 97% rated UCS as having made a difference on creating a more socially inclusive environment, with over half indicating that it made a big difference. Notably, all of these percentages were above the national average on this report, indicating UCS has a large impact on Kentucky schools and general education students as well. We provided an alignment document to United We Learn and hope the connection is noticeable, as the experiences created by the Unified Champion School strategy are in many ways ones that students have never had. This brings new opportunities for all that participate. Now, representatives from 2 of our national banner schools will share their experiences with UCS. National banner schools have achieved 10 standards of excellence in inclusion and display a sustainable model for future participation. I will now turn it over to Olivia and Courtney from Bullitt East High School.
Junior at Bullitt East High School. Hi, my name is Courtney Bass, and I'm also a junior at Bullitt East High School. Project Unify is a unified club at Bullitt East that allows students with special needs like myself and our peers without special needs to get together after school and do so many different activities together. We have established new friendships, learned to play new sports like basketball, bocce ball, bowling, and track. No, I don't play all these sports.
But you could.
We have also gotten the chance to do fun activities with our new friends. Some of these things are out in our community.
Knowing that we are a National Banner Unified Champion School is an honor for Bullies due to the fact that there are so few in Kentucky. We include whole school engagement activities that promote inclusion. Many different students and staff members notice the inclusive environment our club Project Unify has created at our school.
Miss Minton told me I should play unified basketball last school year. It was so fun that I asked Miss Minton if I could be involved in more unified activities. Now I don't want to miss a meeting because we have so much fun.
I heard about our Project Unify Club through my older sister, and I immediately knew I wanted to be a part of it. I have been involved for 3 years, and I've been a leader for 2. I participate in everything that I am able to do, including the polar plunge and all of our meetings.
My favorite part about Project Unify is playing basketball on our Unified team.
My favorite part of our Project Unify Club is meeting with fellow classmates and being able to make lasting memories with them.
I have learned that being involved in this club has made me happier since I have made so many new friends.
I have learned that I really enjoy being able to have an impact on the school's community, and my fellow students are always able to make me smile.
I have also learned that everyone will struggle with different things. Even our peers with disabilities struggle at times.
I have learned that the students with disabilities are similar to those without. At the end of the day, we are all human beings with different strengths and weaknesses. Some just need a little extra or just different help.
It is important to me to continue unified activities because I have so much fun. I have learned to help others, work as a team, and I have also made a lot of new friends.
It is important to continue unified activities to integrate a student with disabilities with their peers and allow them to form relationships and connections with each other. Unified activities also help society and can help with acceptance. Thank you for your time today. We are very proud and excited to be here.
Excellent. Olivia, did you take the polar plunge?
No.
Okay, good for you. Listen, I almost said no when they asked me because I thought I would have to do that. But they don't make you.
This year.
Oh, okay. All right. Pressure.
I told her I need someone to stand in for me because I'm pregnant and I can't get in
Oh,
class.
oh,
she's
it's
the
on.
perfect
Pressure's on. All right.
Hello, guys. I am Christina Minton. I am the school liaison for our National Banner Unified Champion School, as well as a special education teacher. And first, I want to just tell you that it is such an honor to be nationally recognized at our level. And then, like you mentioned, have ESPN come to our school.
Yeah.
It was fantastic. But there are so many examples that shows components of the portrait of learner that you guys have been talking about. Empowered learners. These kiddos are learning from each other. They're learning their strengths, their weaknesses, and how to incorporate things with students that they never thought that could participate in things. And so being a learner individually in school is one thing, but being a learner with each other is a totally different thing. And not only are they learning about each other and new disabilities, but they're learning to be leaders. These students might be led by myself and staff members at schools as the adults, but at the end of the day, these kiddos are learning to be leaders, and they are doing the inclusion at our school.
We just get out of their way.
And yeah, basically, I'm just there because it's legal, right? So, at the end of the day, they are the ones that's learning and leading our school, and that's my favorite part. And being creative contributors. Like I said, they are leading, they are contributing, they are contributing in our community. They are taking the polar plunge. We are pulling a plane on Saturday at UPS as a fundraiser for Special Olympics. And so we are out in our community doing things with kiddos. We're taking kids to pumpkin patches. We're taking them to the movies. You know, we're doing things socially, but also, again, they're learning all these other skills involved with that. And these things that I'm mentioning, they're just a snapshot of what we really do and what it takes to be a national banner unified champion school. However, at Bullitt East, I would like to say it's not an extra task. This is an inclusive environment that these students and my students here supporting me and the staff members of Bullitt East High School, they're doing that. And so at the end of the day, it's more of a lifestyle for us.
Oh, yeah.
And just to share a personal story, I was in a very unfortunate event this month last year that resulted in I needing emergency surgery. And during this moment, you know, you're told you have to have emergency surgery and your world is falling apart. And at the end of the day, it's a very horrible thing. And I had gotten reached out to by a past student. And this student had graduated from Bullitt East High School, and he is now attending Eastern Kentucky University. And his text message or email, whatever it was, it read, Miss Minton, I am currently a business major at Eastern Kentucky University, and I'm not sure that it's for me. What are your thoughts about me changing my major to be a special education teacher? And I was like, oh my gosh, in that moment, you know, you have all these sad emotions. And I'm like crying because this kiddo is reaching out to me to value my opinion in his professional career. And now this kid is a special education major, well, an education major, but he wants to be a special education teacher. And he continues to come back to my classroom for observation hours. And hopefully he hopes the student teach with me one day. And so that's just a fantastic story I wanted to share with you all. And I want to say thank you for having us. And we hope to be back along with our Special Olympics representatives and some other kiddos to update you on how we continue to grow our program at Bullitt East and within our district of Bullitt County Public Schools.
Thank you so much for being here.
Yay.
Yes.
Now I would like to turn it over to our fellow National Banner School, East Carter High School. Sky, you're up first.
Mine is good news. Without his God, and me and go with God, his God, Mother Mary.
Hello, my name is Maddie Rice, and I'm a 10th grade student at East Carter High School. Unified is a huge part of my life. I first found out about Unified from my older sister. She was very involved with the school. My mom also works for the Carter County Board of Education. She's the assistant to the lady over the special education department, so she spoke very highly of the Unified. I've been very active in my Unified chapter. For example, I helped with stations at the Leadership Summit we had at West Carter. I am an officer in my chapter. I've gone on CBI trips, and I'm very involved with club days, which is my favorite. We all get into groups and do tons of activities like playing with Legos or playing ball with Sky, and even playing with the big parachute. I've learned so many skills in Unified, like how not to judge people on their disabilities. Every person I've met in Unified is an amazing person. I've also learned how to understand my friends in the FMD room, even if they're not the best at communicating. It is very important to continue Unified activities because it helps the FMD kids get more involved with stuff like CBI. They can learn skills that can help them later in life. Without Unified, my school wouldn't connect with my friends like Sky. I believe that they would stay in their classrooms and not be as involved with the rest of the school. This is why Unified is so important for East Carter.
Thank you.
Good morning. Like I said, my name is Jamie Tiller, and I'm the sponsor of the Unified program at East Carter High School in Carter County, Kentucky. East Carter High School started incorporating the Unified Champion School model around 10 years ago, and it has just continued to grow ever since. Being a Unified Champion School and teaching inclusion is so much more than just being part of a club. Unified programs create learning experience that correlate with Kentucky's accountability system of what success means. There are several examples that I'm going to share today of how the Unified program supports the Portrait of a Learner model. Students in our school participate in community-based instruction. So this is where kids with disabilities learn skills in the community that help them to be independent. So peers in our unified program go on these CBI trips, and the students can collaborate to complete the given task. This teaches kids to be engaged citizens, effective communicators, and productive collaborators. Children with disabilities become empowered learners because peers encourage one another. And, oftentimes kids work harder to impress their peers than their teachers. Students with and without disabilities learn to work together despite their differences. Students in the Unified program also volunteer in our peer mentoring program, where through friendships, they learn about respect and empathy across differences. And this spills over into other aspects of their life. Our school was attending a sporting event a year ago in a different community, and there was a child in the bleachers with special needs. So our PEP section just invited the kid to come and join our PEP section. And the parent commented to me that her child has attended games at that school for years and has never been invited to join the PEP section, much less by the opposing team. Students in our school also participate in unified sports, where they become productive collaborators working toward their common goal of learning a new sport and competing in that sport. Our students at East Carter High School have traveled throughout Eastern Kentucky, training other schools about Unified Champion schools. So these students have gained leadership skills and become creative contributors as they try to help these other schools navigate the unique challenges associated with change. A parent of a child with disabilities once told me that before the Unified program, that her child was depressed and withdrawn. His school experience was isolation to a single classroom with no interaction with students outside of that classroom. He didn't feel confident talking to people outside of his family, and he felt incapable of making friends. Through the Unified program, he was able to participate in activities where he met kids all throughout the school. He joined the Unified track team. He sat with friends in the cafeteria, and he started going to his career and technical education classes with peers instead of an aide. His mom said that before the Unified program, he was very antisocial. However, now they can't go to Walmart without spending over 3 hours because he talks to everyone. Through this program, he learned how to make friends, and he gained the confidence to interact with people that he had never met. This initiative aims at providing an opportunity for children with and without intellectual disabilities to see and appreciate the abilities of their peers and to see them as friends, teammates, classmates, rather than just different. A Special Olympics Unified Champion School has an inclusive school climate and exudes a sense of collaboration, engagement, and respect for all members of the student body and staff. In our community, it's different. It stands out. Like Christina was saying, it's not just a program, it's a lifestyle in our school. And as Sky was telling you, she actually transferred schools to be a part of East Carter High School's Unified program. And she drives about 30 minutes a day to be a part of our school. And she says that at our school, she is never left out and that she is a Raider. And I'm going to turn it back over to Karen.
And does Sky participate in some activities as well?
Mhm.
What are your events, Sky?
Ball
Mm-hmm.
and kickball.
So she does
Excellent.
a lot of intramurals. And
Uh-huh.
then what about Unified Track?
For kayak.
Mm-hmm.
Unified Track. Excellent. That's a KHSAA event. Excellent.
Yeah.
And I know Sky's family's there in the back.
So while we may be known for sport, Special Olympics has grown to so much more than that. We asked the board to consider having us back annually so that we may update you on our progress. We hope that you will see us as a valuable collaborator in your DEIB work. And we invite you to visit some of our Unified Champion Schools activities in person so you may experience it firsthand. Thank you for having us, and we welcome any questions.
Well, bless you and thank you so much for sharing and bringing to us a way that we can know some of the things that we think are, certainly indicated by the research, certainly representing best practice in pedagogy, also brings together and supports our aspirations for inclusion and support of the social emotional needs of all of our students as they learn to build community together. You make it real for us. And it's so delightful to see United We Learn and Portrait of a Learner come to life in this way. And you just inspire us. So please, thank you indeed. I am going to offer the board an opportunity, and this is really taking a risk, but I'm going to ask that we declare a 5-minute recess so that board members can interact with you and chat with you and welcome you to our workspace here, because you've helped us know that this work is so worth doing, as you have illustrated with your presentation.
And I might invite Deputy Commissioner Thomas Woods Tucker, who oversees our equity work and specifically always looking for best practice around social inclusion and academic inclusion. He's with us today, so I want to make sure you have a chance to meet him. And board members, many thanks to Dr. Edwards for the jams that we received today. You have a card about this work. There's so many Special Olympians around the world who are doing amazing things thanks to the opportunities that they had through Special Olympics and Unified Champion Schools. And so Jared is one example of that. Jared's Jams and his brother Josh's Java are young men from Missouri. Jared was a Special Olympian who ended up at the United Nations, almost nonverbal. And as he worked through the confidence that we heard from Olivia and Sky today and built those skills, he presented in front of the United Nations and has since parlayed his work to raise funds in support of Special Olympics to his own business. And so thanks to Dr. Edwards, who thought of us when she was actually visiting out in Missouri and brought those to us today as a tasty symbol of the work of these amazing student athletes, both students with and without disabilities. So thank you. And thanks for the opportunity to share your work with us today.
Please, we'll now go into a 5-minute recess. Thank you. Commissioner Kenny, please. The next item on our agenda.
Thank you so much. I'd like to introduce Superintendent Mike Stacy from Beechwood Independent, and Shay Ritter from the Office of Finance and Operations joins at the table. Superintendent Stacy reached out to the department. It's been several months ago now that we started talking about an issue that he wanted to highlight to the Board of Education, and he's here to share with us today. The discussion really involves, we know that each of our districts is very unique. And we've been talking a little bit about the impact of funding on local school districts and what that looks like. You know, the funding, the SEEK formula was adopted, let's see, more than 30 years ago now. And as we think about it, thinking about as times have changed, does it still hold true? Does the SEEK formula still hold true and do all the things that we want to do? I would, my personal opinion is it has a lot of the components that we still want to hold true, but times have changed. And so Superintendent Stacy had reached out about a particular issue impacting his district, but it also may impact some other districts in the Commonwealth. And he wanted to highlight that for us. So I'm going to let him kind of share the story of Beechwood Independent and what has happened in the last year. Again, it can be applicable to other school districts as well, but I invited him to come and share the story of Beechwood Independent in the context of how this is impacting his district. So Superintendent Stacy, if you'd like to kind of start the story, and then I also invited Shay to the table to help if there are questions about SEEK itself or how it works or anything like that. So thank you for coming, Superintendent Stacy.
Thank you, Commissioner Kenny. Thank you, Board, for allowing me the opportunity to come speak to you today. There's been a lot of talk about SEEK and the funding model for Kentucky. As Commissioner Kenny said, Kentucky is a very complex state with many different systems, with all of those systems having different pros and cons. I don't envy anyone trying to write policy for the state of Kentucky because I've been in many of those regions, and it is almost impossible to write one policy that doesn't have impact positively and negatively on different systems. Today, I would also like to highlight I'm really not here for personal reasons. My time at Beechwood is growing nigh. So that is in one way a big relief, and in another way very concerning because how you leave a place sometimes is way more importantly than how you enter a place. I only want to advocate and represent my system and board and community that have provided me an opportunity to have a decade run at a quality system. During our last property assessment cycle, we had a 31% property assessment increase. And this is after many 4 to 6% increases in the interim years. Due to the fact that we are landlocked as a system, there is no new property to offset this increase. Therefore, we lost about 7% of our total operating budget in one bad phone call. We have saved for many years, and we will survive this increase. But we wouldn't be able to survive it if it happens again in 4 years. Plus, we anticipate 4 to 8% increases in all the interim years, which still are in excess of the board's ability to add taxing ability. And that's mainly due to the turnover of property. I mean, people just don't stay in our community after their kids graduate. It's becoming too expensive due to the consistent 4% increases and the sharp assessment property increases over the last 6 years. It's important to note that, that we are a growing system, one of 27 growing systems since the start of COVID, and we're also a strong achieving district, both inside and out of the classroom. So things are good, but due to our size, we are definitely limited financially. Another oddity that we would like to address, the statutes that resulted from the Rose case place certain protections for systems that lose a large revenue source, but there are no such protections for the other end. A Sikh loser like Beechwood could be forced to close immediately if assessments had increased 50%. There's no phase-in protection for our type of situation. We understand that no one in 1991 ever anticipated property assessments increasing by 31% in one cycle. But this is the reality in 2023. We would respectfully ask that KDE and KBE keep this in mind as we potentially move towards Sikh reform at some point in our state's future. Another problem, the way our current system is set up, Sikh losers like Beechwood must make budget decisions, especially around pay, before receiving their final projections. Salary letters go out in May. So anything that you do or a board does as far as pay happens before final projections are sent out. Normally, this isn't a big deal because you can generally look at your historical projections and make a pretty good educated guess. We anticipated about an 18% increase. Fort Thomas had a 20. We had a ton of property turnover and interest rates had gone up to 6%. So we were projecting an 18% increase, not a 31% increase. So that is another difficult situation. And the last thing I'd like to point out, there have been a lot of articles written and discussions recently about the funding gap. Some of the statements in these articles discuss the funding gap between wealthy and poor districts. I'd like to point out what I discussed at the very beginning. These blanket statements are very difficult when a state is so complex. Beechwood is almost always considered a privileged or wealthy district, but I can promise you that we have less money than any system I've been a part of, and I've worked in 6. Again, we respectfully ask that KDE and KBE advocate for these complexities to be considered. I don't think there's any doubt that the crafters of the Sikh formula ever wanted a small, growing, thriving Sikh loser to be put out of business due to the formula. But this could potentially happen if things continue on the current trajectory. Finally, I I would just like to say that I'm extremely proud of my Board of Education. They have taken such risks. 7 out of the last 9 years, they've taken the 4%, and the only 2 they didn't. One, they did a double nickel. The first district in the state of Kentucky to do a double nickel, 2 nickels at one time to try to manage their own building and physical plant issues. They're amazing, hardworking, and really care about their local community. I admire their courage and commitment to the children of Fort Mitchell, and I also feel the need to advocate for their future, especially when their courage has resulted in some major successes, both inside and outside of the classroom. I'd like to close with saying that we are absolutely not advocating against the SEEK formula. We are absolutely not advocating against any other district. We all have our blessing and curses. That's just the way we're established. And we absolutely know that unless SEEK in its current state is fully funded, many systems will have upcoming financial issues. We're only pointing out that a one-size-fit-all formula is extremely problematic in 2023 in a state that has such radically different situations in regards to student population shifts and property assessment growth rates. I would also like to personally say that former Commissioner Dr. Glass and current Commissioner Kinney have been very supportive and understanding during this timeline, and their grace and kindness has been much appreciated. Thanks for your time, the opportunity to talk today, and the commitment to our Kentucky children. Your work is greatly appreciated. I'll be glad to try to answer any questions if you have any for me. If not, I'm just going to point at Jay.
Well, Chase used to passing the ball to him or saying, catch this if you can.
Okay.
Please.
I'd just like to add a few things. I agree the system is complex. When you look across our state, even in the wealthier districts, what we call property wealthy, they have their own issues. Smaller districts have their own issues. Larger districts have their own issues. I think his statement about one size does not fit all is more true now than it's ever been. As we have a few former superintendents on this board, they understand the complexity within those buildings. When you have a high poverty population or a high special needs population, or just you struggle hiring teachers because you're competing against wealthier neighbors. These are all things we ask our superintendents and boards to contend with each and every year. That's not changed since 1991. I think there's always been, I've been with KBE 15, 16 years. The minute I got here, there was a conversation about, well, what do we change? What can we do? That conversation's been ongoing for years. I keep hearing, different versions of it, but it's, I think, continual because everybody wants to do better. Superintendents certainly have a different perspective than we do at the department. Parents have a different perspective, taxpayers, the General Assembly, and I think recognizing that's really important too. One thing I want to kind of go back to is how districts have to budget. It's a little confusing. As a former private sector person that came in from outside, I always thought it was sort of backwards that districts have to do staffing first in May, get the contracts out, and then they're locked in. They don't have a choice after that. And he's right. Most years you could probably do some educated guessing to say, we're going to need this many teachers. I'm going to sign these contracts and here's what we do. Then come fall, which these working budgets will come to you all next board meeting in December. They tighten up all the numbers and say, here's our, tax revenue. Here's what SEEK is going to look like. So they're really doing what I would call that tentative budget is really more fluid. In May, come fall, they tighten it up. And then of course it comes to us. That's a very difficult thing to do when 80+% of your expenditures are in salaries that you've already determined back in May. You may have a board say, well, in May, they think, well, we'll increase taxes. Well, you don't know what your assessments are going to do. You don't know what the local, feelings are about raising taxes. So come fall, pressure may be on your board to lower taxes. And then you've got to make very quick adjustments. And that's the other thing. The boards, once they commit to that staffing, like I said, there's no turning back. And once they get into fall, they have to make decisions. And the knuckleball, in this case, that high property assessment increase, they have to react extremely quickly because they could not have factored that in. Nobody on their best day could have guessed 30%. Previous to our housing market explosion, 4 and 5% was really outstanding if you had that in real estate. I can remember talking to the state economist, and we would see Scott County as our bellwether and think, well, if Scott's growing at 6%, that's really healthy. Now we're seeing, I know we were talking right before the meeting, Covington was at 29%. I think they had 25% the year before. These numbers have become very absurd, as I'm sure you've noticed in your neighborhoods, how houses are selling for pretty crazy prices. One mechanism that does exist in statute, but there's a caveat to this, is if your real estate assessment grows 4% or more, there's a clawback of money. Now, the caveat is there's language that says if funds are available. They do this. And this year there were funds available. And to give you a little context, in the past, we would have a handful of districts qualify for that because they exceeded 4% in real estate, and they would get, less than $1 million overall for that adjustment. Now I think last time we were over $22 million in clawback. That's how much real estate has been impacted by this housing market. It's impacted state budget. It impacts obviously districts. And as well as if you think of the seesaw effect, as property assessments increase, your tax rates go, it pushes them lower. But at the same time, you're sort of trying to recover a lot of revenue at once, and you're going to have to take a lower tax rate. And so it kind of puts everything in a kind of a strange vacuum of, well, the good news is that you're going to get more local tax dollars. The bad news is the state's going to, sort of that weight goes down on the state side. So you're getting less and less state money. So I just want to point that out.
Just, we would have needed to take a 17% tax increase to break even.
Thank you.
Dr. Paul?
Yes, I want to echo everything that that the two gentlemen had just said, Dr. Stacy and Chad. I'm sorry, Chad. I apologize. I'm battling illnesses here at the home, so that's why I'm here virtually. Mike, totally support what Mike has said. I've been dealing with this issue when I was at Boone for 23 years in the budgeting back in the original days when Beechwood, Fort Thomas, and Boone County filed an amicus brief on this. There's been study after study that KBE has done going back to Gene Wilhoit's day that showed that there are anomalies in this formula. I agree with the gentleman that said that, there's not a one size fits all, but we know the anomalies. August and Picus, who originally were the founding individuals that created SEEK, identified the situations that Mike and Che were talking about here. But we have lacked the courage to fix those anomalies. We have made sure, just as Che said, that we were looking at decreases on attendance this year. So we run in and we do something to fix that. But we've never fixed the fact, as Mike had said, that the assessment, when the assessment increases, and as Mike just pointed out in his last conversation, that he would have to offset his taxes locally. So people think that, oh, well, you're growing locally, but there is not a direct correlation between the property assessment and the local taxes that you receive. It's always disproportionate. So Mike is losing money every particular time there's an increase. At one time, there was 3 districts. Now there's over 50 some districts that face what Mike is talking about, but we have not done anything to change that. So I would echo, and I would hope that we would go back to the original study that Picus and Odin did, and say are these 9 anomalies, X number and whatever it was in that study the KDE did and commissioned, or the LRC did and commissioned, one of the two at the time when Gene was here. And we address not only this, but all those anomalies, because SEEK is not it's an allocation formula, and it does what it was supposed to do. And as they said, if everybody was supposed to go, I think it was House Bill 940 at the time, but most districts operate under House Bill 44. And the formula was never driven to operate under House Bill 44. Not saying do away with House Bill 44, but you have to take the original House Bill 940 or whatever and House Bill 44 and address the anomalies. An example in Boone County, as Mike is talking about, we never received any any substantial tier one match on foundations. If we did, we would never had to increase the nickels. So that property assessment, for example, that we were over 150% of the particular average, that was put in there. So we've never received, or Boone has never received, any tier one match in that relationship. So therefore, they have to pass nickels. So the formula, we either need to fix these anomalies, or somebody's going to bring a lawsuit, and then we're back to where we were in 1990, starting all over again. So I applaud Mike for Dr. Stacy for coming and bringing this issue back up on behalf of not only his district, but there's about 50 other districts that fall into this. And we really need to, as a board, come with recommendations so that we fix the allocation formula and the legislature doesn't get back into throwing this out and starting with something that isn't one of the best allocation formulas if we would do and fix the anomaly. So I'll be quiet with there because I could go on like Dr. Stacy for hours on this, but I just want to validate everything that he said. I dealt with it for years, and it just continues now in 2023, 5 years, later after leaving the profession.
So, Dr. Stacy, thank you for giving voice and bringing such a fulsome case of what we know to be the impact of what we have that is not what we expected, intended, certainly desire. And the question is, how do we go about fixing it? I think you and others have helped us to understand that we're at that moment where, you could duck your head in the sand and say, just let it proceed. But we have to understand that there are several facets of this issue. And one facet is certainly adequacy of funds at the state level. Another is the conditions of the structure of the formula and how does the formula accommodate constantly changing economic conditions in the local communities that are, I suspect it was rather hard to predict the impact of your property.
Since it never happened before.
Right,
I
exactly.
think it was pretty hard to predict.
And then, there's this dynamic there that is so typical, not only in education, but in too often, a crisis isn't a crisis until it's confirmed by disaster. So let us not sit here and wait for disaster to befall. We will, I assure you, work with KDE to help structure a process for addressing this issue with the appropriate parties in a way that is constructive and in a way that is very, very high integrity and informed by the best data that from the various disciplines and dynamics that will impact this, to come up with the recommendations that we take forward. And I would hope that at the local level, you will join us in assuring the policymakers that we are on this, because I doubt seriously that this is one of those dynamics where we want to be told what to do, unless what we're told to do is representative and informed by the best information that should go into consideration. Yes.
Yeah, and thank you, Dr. Stacy, and for the ongoing conversation about the oddity that happened in Beechwood this spring. And I think it does advance the conversation, Dr. Robinson, that we've already started having with members of the General Assembly in terms of leadership around the appetite that they might have for school finance reform, some serious conversation around school finance reform and what that would look like in 2023 and beyond. So 32 years is in dog years when it comes to school finance models. We know, thanks to the Rose case, that Kentucky actually in the early 90s was one of the most equitable, desirable school funding formulae in the country. but it didn't have the staying power, clearly. So finding those partnerships, the collaborations, engaging local school boards in these conversations with their local governmental officials and leaders, I think will be really important in terms of taking a serious look at the challenges.
And I also think that it needs to be a very thoughtful, deliberate conversation.
No easy fixes.
No easy fixes. Superintendent Stacy has pointed out one aspect of the formula that may not be working exactly the way we all intended or want it to work. But there are lots of other stories from other districts, and Mike said that very clearly. The uniqueness of our districts and how they're structured and their student population, attendance, everything that goes
Independent versus
into it,
county.
independent versus county, the geography even. All those things really impact how it all turns out in the end. And so I would encourage us to be very thoughtful in this conversation. It will take some time to really come up with the next version of whatever the next version is. And it's important that we have stakeholders at the table so that we can really discuss the impact. And this goes back to communities as well as our local school districts and the operations there. So, and we are hearing a lot of interest in talking about, is there a new way to do this? I would just encourage us to be very deliberate and thoughtful in that process.
Yes, thank you so much. Yes, Julie.
So I'm going to reiterate some of what Dr. Poe said when I first joined the Boone County School Board and learned the lesson of how the SEEK formula works and things. I was quite shocked in the first round when if we did absolutely nothing, we lost $5 million. And so it falls back on the local boards to raise those
And that
monies.
hole is always there.
The hole is
Never
always
gets
there.
filled.
Yeah, you never get out of it. And the only way you get out is by raising taxes. Then that makes your local constituents upset because their property taxes are going up. But at that time, when I learned about that, I immediately started talking to Senator Chris McDaniel. I said, Senator McDaniel, this is an issue that needs to be looked at. So we need to have not only the state board, but our local school board members engaging with their legislators. But then the other thing, also going back to the timeline, when those contracts go out, we have to keep in mind in school districts that personnel costs is between 75 and 85%.
Yep, right.
And so when you get those numbers and you find out what your numbers are, the only thing that can be cut are the non-personnel costs, which is transportation, activities, facilities, those kinds of
Cut the
things.
heat.
Yes, so you have a very small margin of what you can even make those adjustments in it, because by contract, you can't do it in the personnel. So I'm fully agreeing, and just from the experience of being on the local school board, I understand where Mike is coming from.
So it's time.
Yes.
All right.
One parting, I do agree with Commissioner Kinney. It'll be a long process. But in the meantime, if we could advocate for that phase in as an amendment for the time that it takes, because without a phase in, guys, a 31% increase and the loss of those funds with a projection of 4 to 8% in the interim years, we will get farther and farther behind every single year because we won't be able to raise taxes enough to be able to offset that. And so without a phase-in program, if we were to get hit to the next assessment cycle, you would have the current #1 system in the state of Kentucky closing because of the SEEK formula. So thank you for your time.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Superintendent Stacy.
All right.
Appreciate your coming to us. And board members, we are going to work on what our next steps will be. And I can promise you with great confidence, we'll be discussing this in December. And in the interim, doing our work as we should to prepare for that. Thank you so much.
Have a great day.
Our next items, Jay, I think you need to stay where you are. Action items concern waivers. Waiver from Murray Independent Board of Education related to the Kentucky Schools Facility Planning Manual, section 304.2.1.1.3 as incorporated in 702 KAR 4:180. Jay, please.
Thank you, Chair. Usually I'm up here talking about easement waivers, and surprise, I've got one for you, but it's not this one. This one's a little different. This is for Murray Independent, I believe is our first one we're going to look at. From our staff note, the resulting movement from an existing facility to a new facility shall not reduce the enrollment of the existing facility to less than 85% of its projected capacity. Just logically, you don't want to build a new school and drain the old school to be inefficient. Just wouldn't make sense. However, in this case, I think Murray, which is strangely enough one of the few districts that's still growing right now, they have, as part of their master plan, if you read through the notes, they're actually going to do some adjustments to their grade levels and their buildings, and this is all part of kind of a bigger plan, if you will. So staff was supportive of this waiver, and if I could find the right note here, they're going to relocate fourth grade students from the existing fourth through eighth grade middle school to a future elementary school designed to accommodate students from kindergarten through fourth grade. And I believe we may have someone from the district on virtually, maybe.
Yes.
If they have any comments they would like to add, share.
Can you hear me?
Yes, thank you.
Good morning. This is Coy Salmon, Superintendent Murray Independent, and I have Whitney York, the Assistant Superintendent, also the Chair of our Local Planning Committee. I didn't know if there would be questions. If the district has experienced, if I may, some growth the last 5 years. From 2020 to this current school year, we went roughly from 1,600 students to 1,822. And at this time, our aging facilities need to be addressed. And we feel like this move from a K to a K4 will address some needs we have at our elementary school. And our middle school is one section of the building, roughly 2/3 of the building was built in 1920, and we would like to reduce the stress on that building.
Well, thank you so much, Superintendent Simmons. I think that the board, are there questions for the district officials or for our department staff? Yes, please.
As a former teacher in that system, I was in the K3 building, and we always felt, a little hesitant really to send our fourth graders to a middle school setting. So I feel like this is a wonderful opportunity to put those students in a more developmentally appropriate setting.
Yeah.
And just a really great opportunity. And I just want to applaud Murray Independent also for that beautiful structure they do maintain, that 1920s building. You all should come and see it. It's glorious. And it's just such an important part of the history of our city. It was like the first teacher college and all kinds of interesting history around that building. So it's nice for them to be able to maintain that, reduce the stress on that building, but also more importantly, give those fourth graders a more developmentally appropriate setting.
On that note, I am going to ask for a motion
make that
regarding
motion.
this request for waiver.
I make a motion that we approve the waiver for Murray Independent School District.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Oh, all right. Thank you so much. We have a motion and a second. Are there further questions, comments, debate? Not, I will ask the question. All those in favor of this waiver request, please say aye.
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 Thank you. Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you very much. Thank you so much, Superintendent Sampson, and your colleagues. Appreciate your joining us. And we will now move to the next waiver request from Jefferson County related to 702 KAR 4:050 and 702 KAR 4:090. Che and Mike, please, would you
Thank you.
present this request?
This is kind of a 2-for-1, if you will. We've combined 2 waiver requests into one. The first one is about an easement traversing a property at Atkinson's, I can't say this correctly, Atkinson Square Drive. This is a sanitary and drainage easement. It's not going to cause issues for the district or anything. It's an existing easement. And it's not going to change their ability to use the site. The second part of this is a little bit different property. There's a requirement that districts employ someone on their behalf to do the appraisal. However, in this case, the local water company had gone ahead and done an appraisal on a piece of property rather than do another one, which would cost funds. And as you'll look at the amounts, the property is only worth about $4,500, but the appraisal could run $1,200 to $3,500. JCPS felt comfortable with the appraisals that they got from Louisville Water Company, and our staff were okay with that one as well. So that's 2 waivers rolled into one in this case.
Any questions, comments? I would ask a motion that we approve this waiver request from Jefferson County Board of Education related to 702 KAR 4:050 and 702 KAR 4:090. Is there such a motion?
So moved. Yeah, so moved. Second.
Thank you so much. We have a second. We have a motion and a second. Questions?
As far as I know, the site will just be used to access other district property.
I believe so, yes. And we do have representatives from JCPS on the screen behind you there. I can see 2 of them, I believe.
Oh, fabulous. Thank you.
So no other uses for the site except to access other property the district already owns, right?
That is correct.
I will call the question then. All those in favor of this motion, please say aye.
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 Are there any opposed? Motion carries. This waiver approval is approved. Thank you so much. The next item concerns liability insurance regulation. Che, Matt.
Thank you. Senate Bill 3 passed during the last session of the General Assembly, had to do with liability insurance for certified employees of school districts. It really has 2 parts. One is a requirement on the district, and it requires KBE to promulgate a regulation that requires school districts to purchase primary liability insurance to cover certified employees in amount of $1 million per occurrence and $3 million in the aggregate. I think that's right. And the second part of that is it requires the Kentucky Department of Education to procure excess liability insurance above those limits. And the limit to that is determined by whatever KEA or the largest teachers organization amounts they provide in excess. So because that part is required by statute, that's not included in the regulation. So what we're doing here is we are promulgating the regulation to require school districts to purchase that primary liability insurance. And then we set forth some reporting requirements so that we know and can be sure that the districts are providing that. And if there's any changes, then we would receive that and could follow up. So that's basically all we're doing.
Questions, comments?
So Matt, was this modeled after anything another state does? Do we have other data?
We looked at how other states did it. It depends. I don't know that all states have it. Some states have sort of a fund. They do it through the state, and the state provides the liability insurance for the certified employees. This way, they, even KDE is to procure that excess insurance rather than it being held like with state risk or something like that. Yeah. So it looks like it's done differently. I can't say that I found a model exactly like this.
Okay.
Yeah.
So Dr. Pope has a question.
Thank you. Dr. Poe, please.
Yes. So basically, this regulation is something we have to pass because of the legislature. But on that last part, aren't we, basically the legislature passed and said, we've got to do this. So this is becoming an unfunded mandate then to the districts to purchase this additional liability insurance when teachers already have immunity under the particular state. So help me address why this is actually really needed. Do we know why it's needed? And I mean, when we look at, we just did a waiver, for example, with Jefferson County. How much is their policy going to have to cost to cover their employees, for example? Do we know the cost or potential cost to school districts when the state is not giving us seek money to begin with to cover this?
So a couple things. I think a lot of districts already have this coverage under one of their lines. I think we did a survey and we've got reports back, and most of the districts have already. So this regulation is not, and the law says this doesn't go into effect the 2024-25 school year. So we've done a survey to sort of find out by the districts what they have or what they're going to have, and got about 80 respondents, and I think
85.
And most of these are covered under a line already. And I guess also the legislation did say that it was going to include an appropriation, but they haven't provided any money. So we don't know if they're going to provide money to the state, or it's going to and to the districts, or if it's going to continue to be an unfunded mandate on the district. Yeah.
Dr. Poe as well, you might recall as we were going through our ABR request, our additional budget request, we did include an ABR specifically for this purpose. The difficulty is trying to determine how much it's going to cost. It's sort of the chicken and the egg problem. We have to put out a procurement, a solicitation to find out how much it's going to cost. So we're doing a little bit of estimating here, but we will be talking to the General Assembly and talking to legislators about it will be very difficult for KDE to procure that excess liability without any funding. So that'll be a discussion we have to have with the legislature.
Okay. In addition to that, I guess one of the things that it says the liability insurance in relationship to what I guess KEA is proposing. I mean, do we know why? I mean, it seems to me if we're putting an RFP out, we're comparing our RFP then to what KEA does, or we can put an RFP out separate for a separate amount.
So
I just don't understand that part.
Matt, if you'll refresh my memory, I think there was an amount in the bill for the excess liability or the equivalent. So if the amount in the bill is already covering the same amount that the teachers organization is covering, then that's the amount we put out on the street. If it's higher than that, then we are supposed to put out an amount that's higher that is equivalent to what they are doing. And I never try to guess why the General Assembly puts a tie to certain things in their bills. So I can't answer that part of the question of why they did that.
Okay, but that restricts our RFP in some form or fashion. It's got to meet that. It's got to be above that, basically. So if they came back this year, I'm just throwing out hypotheticals. If they came back there this year and increased from, let's say, X number of percentage to, let's say, $1 million more in coverage, then our RFP has to go up to that amount. So I'm just saying we've got a floating dollar amount that we don't know that's really can cause problems for districts or for us as KDE. I just think, that there's a problem there.
So the district's
putting that
capped.
out so we know that.
The district is capped at $1 million. It's the excess that's pegged to the.
And before we put the RFP out on the street, of course, we will reach out to KEA to get that number. We've also talked to them as part of our surveying. And once we enter into that for a certain calendar year or fiscal year, then I don't think the expectation would be we would suddenly have to put out another RFP to try to meet it, even if they changed. You're right. It is a floating directive, but I think we can work through that as we put out our first solicitation. But most importantly, we need the funds to be able to do that.
I don't know if
And
this,
I really think that, I mean, are we obligated to, are we required to take on an obligation that we know we are not funded to honor?
I'm going to turn to Todd.
So I think what we have to keep in mind is that the effect is supposed to go in later. So it's possible that once we put this out and determine how much it's going to cost, then that could be the trigger for the General Assembly to fund what is there. So I think we're a little bit preliminary at this point in time in determining whether or not we just don't do it because we don't have the amount of funding. I also have no idea what this is going to cost. You know, insurance typically isn't cheap to buy, but Dr. Poe does make a point about immunity that school officials have. So that's going to make it a little bit less because there are going to be immunity arguments that exist. Those aren't always rock solid, but they're helpful. So I think that the first step in the process, if we look at it as a longer term process, is to figure out how much coverage school districts are providing, how much coverage we have to get to be excess coverage, whether it's the amount in the statute or a larger amount as provided by the largest teacher organization in the state, then put that out for bid to determine how much it's going to cost, and then hopefully get the money from the General Assembly to fund what that costs on a regular basis. I would say a lot of things can happen and there's a lot of speculation involved. Maybe it comes back at such a large amount of money, the General Assembly doesn't want to fund it and they completely undo it. Maybe they find that this is important to them, so they put the money in the budget and make it happen for us. If they don't, there are things that have been directed by the General Assembly in the past that the department has taken the position because we don't have the money. We're unable to do that. And we're very sorry, but if you want us to do it, please provide the funding to do so. So that'll be a decision point once we get there. But I think we're a little bit premature at this point.
and I don't know if this is a Matt question, probably a Matt question, not a Todd question, but I'm just trying to think about, and from my experience, about any excess liability that was enacted at the local level. So two-part question. Do we have the data on how many Kentucky educators accessed professional liability in excess of $1 million? Is there any reporting mechanism for that kind of information? And then number two, logistically, and Jessamine, our provider was Zurich. If an employee hit $1 million, then in this case, then Zurich would contact whoever our insurance carrier is for the excess, and they would work together to make that happen. Okay.
So I guess in that sense too, that it may be a cost reduction to districts if they don't have to carry
The additional excess.
additional excess.
Yeah.
Well,
but I don't think we have a repository for the data.
No, we don't have for the data.
Because
for the
I wouldn't have ever
questions.
reported that to KDE.
I don't believe so, no.
Yeah.
And I don't think in our survey we asked for
No.
claims or
I
numbers.
think we're asking for thresholds in our survey.
Okay.
so essentially, we have before us a staff recommendation to approve this regulation based on our obligation to take this step to implement a directive from the General Assembly. So I ask for a motion to approve 702 KAR 330 liability insurance regulation. May I have such a motion, please?
I move the motion, Diane Woods.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
From Judy. Thank you very much. Are there further questions? Is there any further debate?
Well, I just have a question because I don't understand exactly how this works. But like, if I'm a teacher and my liability insurance is through the school, but there's something happening where it's kind of like me and the school are at odds. Like, where does that leave me as a teacher? I guess I'm just not sure. Like,
In addition to what the district covers, you also likely have your own professional organizations liability insurance through KEA or Christian educators or your own homeowners insurance. So at that
In a
point, my
way,
experience has
I mean,
been
I
that
feel
the
like
insurance
this is to,
companies
like substitute for that, but
It is.
really, it's not a good substitute for it in my opinion. I mean, I'm just
Well, it's
asking.
not, it would not be a product that you are controlling, that you have a voice in, because it's one that's kind of structured and imposed. I mean, that would be one way to think about it, but
And what keeps like an outside organization from like, okay, well, we'll compete with this and we'll offer twice as much. Then we just have to keep going up in what we're paying for.
That's the points I was bringing up, Holly, is exactly what you're saying, because this policy covers for the employee, but if your situation is if you have an employee and then the district's at odds with that employee, that does not cover you, or you don't have that liability insurance or representation when you're going into that meeting with the superintendent or somebody else. So I think it muddies the water with all the employees that we have across the districts, because they might think that they're covered, but they're not covered if the district doesn't think they're covered or under that policy to fight. So that's the dilemma that we're in. And yes, it just becomes a thing to drive it up. So I'm going to probably vote for the recommendation based on Todd's thing, but I'm going to clarify that, after I make my vote, because I'm like you, there's a lot to this that's ambiguous, and why is it that we're requiring this. But if I'm forced to do it, I'm going to vote, but I'm going to state my opinion because I have those same concerns you have exactly.
I will call the question. And perhaps we should have a roll call vote.
Joanne Adams.
I vote yes.
You want to go in reverse alphabetical?
I have questions. I have questions about the reason for it. But I understand it's a directive to us. So that's the reason for my vote. Holly Bloodworth.
Yes, but I hope we can get more clarification.
Jamie Bowling.
Jamie Bowling, yes.
Patrice McCrary.
Patrice McCrary, I have a reluctant yes, because I feel we do not have adequate information on this about the premise of the entire directive.
Julie Pyle.
Again, a reluctant yes. There's not enough information and it's an unfunded mandate.
Randy Poe.
Yes, I vote yes as my statutory duty, but based on Todd's recommendations that it's, and as Julie just said, it's an unfunded mandate, and I'm just saying yes based on our attorney's recommendation to do it, but I have lots of questions before I would move forward with a vote in the future to accept anything.
Sharon Robinson.
Yes.
Lee Todd.
Yes, with the same reservations as mentioned before, but yes.
Steve Trimble.
Yes, with the same reservations. I don't like any unfunded mandates. We've got enough of those right now for school districts, and it's a problem. But I will vote yes.
Diane Woods.
Yes, and ditto everything that's been said.
Lou Young.
Yes, by way of obligation, but stipulating the same reservations. Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you so much. So there are, we're going to go now into our review items, and the first concerns educator preparation efforts on early literacy. KDE Associate Commissioner Byron Darnell will come and with Melissa Debo, and we will provide an overview of what the ed prep providers are doing on early literacy. Thank you so much for this report. It is in the portal. Barry.
Thanks so much. Always an honor to be with you all, and good morning. So yes, just as Chair Robinson explained, just an opportunity and grateful to just kind of give you an overview of the scope of the work that has been underway with regards to reading and the preparation of our future teachers during their candidacy. So we just wanted to kind of give you an overview of what has been quite an endeavor over the last year, and it is going to leap into the next year. The lead of the work has really been a conscientious effort to do with and not do to, in terms of looking at the needs of our programs, the candidates that they serve, and how can the conversation and the expectations that have been set forth in legislation apply to our preparation programs. In other words, what is the best fit? So been joined by excellent co-pilots with Dr. Melissa Diebel doing the groundwork largely and being the primary conduit for some of our fantastic literacy experts, as well as our deans and other EPP representatives, as well as Mr. Todd Davis as well. So I will pass over to Dr. Diebel just for a scope of the work and what we have accomplished so far.
Hey, good morning. Or afternoon. No, we're still morning. Good morning. Thank you all for giving us time to talk about this work. We know it's very important to everybody that we have well-prepared teachers going into our classrooms. So the overall scope of the work is centered on KRS 164.306, which is the evidence-based reading instructional programming. So evidence-based reading instructional strategies, so fluency, vocabulary, comprehension, phonics, phonemic awareness. And then we have the components that focus on administration of assessment processes, programs, identifying students' needs and strengths, and then designing instruction and interventions that would best support those students and monitoring their progress and having an understanding of different instructional strategies that could be used in the classroom. So those are that's the first part of the work. And if we'll go to the next slide, the next, oh, sorry, I talked about that. Let's go to the next slide. Look at that, how efficient we are. So, oh, actually, I have different slides. Sorry. The scope of the work also, what we've been doing recently is working on the list of approved teacher preparation assessments. And so that's kind of been our early literacy cohort has been working on evaluating assessments in this last few months and determining what recommendations we will make to the Educational Standards Professional Board as to what we think would be the best fit. So the overall recommendation that we came to for the assessment was to add Praxis Test 5205, which is teaching reading in elementary. We went over several tests and took copious notes to look for alignment to what we were hoping students would know and learn. And this was the assessment that we felt best fit legislative requirements, had the best outcome for our students as far as gathering information. And then we also were looking for an early childhood assessment. We could not find an early childhood literacy assessment that addressed the literacy legislation and was also appropriate for the grade span of the Kentucky certificate, which is birth to kindergarten. There are some that are birth to third grade. We had a meeting last Thursday with Praxis, and we have been able to nominate 2 early childhood experts in Kentucky to be a part of the writing of that test. So that is being written right now, or going to start in the next few weeks. We have 2 people from the state of Kentucky that are going to be a part of that. They're going to write 2 tests. One will focus on birth to 5 years old, and the second one will go up through 3rd grade. So, they'll have to pilot those, and then we'll have to develop standard cut scores and all of these things. So I don't know that we are at a place where we're going to be able to administer that test. We could be a part of the pilot, but The assessment measures, that's kind of what our recommendations have been. We did request that we open up or start testing in the fall for the 5205, but do have a do no harm year. Curriculum needs to shift in ed prep. They do have the 5 elements, but the added components of progress monitoring and assessment were not necessarily specified explicitly in their instructions. So we don't want to harm the field by assessing students on content they may not have experienced in their literacy courses. So we are asking that we give a 1-year do no harm with cut scores like all of our other assessments going into play than the following year. And so that's been the bulk of our work thus far. We are gathering syllabi, and we are going to get into a deep dive of what is actually being taught within the coursework of pre-service teachers, and we're going to get into evaluating that and then making recommendations for those things as well. And then we also have a part of the legislation was to have a third party do the same evaluation. So look at the assessments, and if all goes well, our findings should align with what they have. But we have right now an RFP out looking for a third party vendor. And I think we've received some questions. And so that is moving forward. They will begin their work. They'll have access to all the same things that the ELC, our early literacy cohort, has had access to, and they can request additional if they want additional access. But really, we are just exploring this year, really what it is that we're doing, how we can demonstrate what students are learning in ed prep, and how we can support that learning from the department and move forward. So,
Melissa, may I ask?
Yes, please.
Before you go on to the next part, and I understand that this is the purview of the Education Professional Standards Board, so I'm not trying to get too much out of my lane, but I'm really curious about the educator prep side of the house. How expensive is the Praxis 5205? How many praxis?
I know.
Do elementary educators have to take, and who bears those costs?
So right now, the addition, it will be an additional cost of $156 for the 5205. Right now, they also take their admissions assessments, which are the reading, writing, and math, and then they take elementary education. Right now, we do the 5,000 series, which is a language arts, social studies, math, and science. We had discussed potentially taking the English language ones out and adding the reading one in. But if we do it no harm, we don't want to not hold people accountable for the ELA. So we're going to do both. I will say, though, that the concerns of cost, barriers to profession were 2 things that our group discussed. And through our discussions, we found that we're able to offer funding for the praxis exams, all of them, not just literacy, but all of them through the Kentucky Academy for Equity in Teaching Praxis Reimbursement Program. And that's offered through CKEC, and we have sent the link out, and hopefully all our students do that. They also will pay for additional tests. So if you don't pass it, they will pay for a retake. So we've tried to offset the cost through that. And then the other discussion we had was, is this going to create a barrier for people entering the profession? And I think we've seen at times with praxis that could. That's why we have the do no harm year. We'll be able to see what student scores are in that year. We'd get an idea of how many students this could be a barrier for, or if they're all doing passing, then we would know that. So in a year, we'll have that information. So in a year, we could potentially look at taking away the ELA test. The other option is there's a 7,000 series that Praxis has created, which is like the 5,000 series. It has the science, math, social studies, but instead of the ELA, it's an evidence-based reading practices, reading test that goes into that. That can be combined, and that would be probably our cheapest option. But right now, no other states are doing that. So that test hasn't been hasn't been used. The other thing that could mean for Ed Prep is that it will make changes to math, social studies, and science as well. And I don't know to what extent. Our ELC has been provided with practice test codes to go take the 5205.
Oh, good.
So our group is going to do a midterm report that I'll submit to EPSB and Dr. Darnell, who can pass it off to anybody who would like to see it, that has the our findings of that stuff. So it'll have our assessment, it'll talk about anything we've done so far. And then in May, we'll have a final report where we'll kind of offer our recommendations and kind of give a scope of all the work we did, summarizing what we were able to determine. And then we'll have feedback from the third party on what they have found, and that could lead to additional discussions and changes. So
The KAET reimbursement needs-based, I understand that money is left on the table every year.
Yeah.
It is. There's an application process that a candidate will have to fill out to access the funds that are available through Kate. Well, I don't know if it thankfully there are there's a good opportunity for individuals in accessing those funds, given the funds that are available, but it is an application-based
So
system.
beginning this year or next year, an elementary education graduate would sit for 3 separate praxis exams.
they will. That will begin in the fall of
in the
24.
fall.
Well, there's the
But it
PLT
typically
also.
is-
Yeah. So
That's the third one, right?
yeah, that's the third one. Because you have the 5,000 series content test, the literacy, and then the PLT. So it would be 3.
Yeah.
Science.
3 sittings.
But only one sitting.
They don't have to do
Yes. Dr. Poe?
Yes, I've got some questions here. In relationship to the PowerPoint, I wanted to go back on the thing because, you know, we the missed things on the screen. It says additional discussion was we had concerns that letter training, our 9 EPPs participating in this year was a consensus, the EPPs, that letters had some elements that could be included in the early literacy coursework, but the training as a whole was too much to be implemented in its full state for undergraduate students. First of all, I guess I need to know exactly who EPPS is. And my question is I hear about all these tests, but I mean, as a board, you know, we have spent millions of dollars trying to retrain teachers in letters. I'd rather they have a competency in letters than all this testing that we're talking about. So is that a particular option? Or if KDE is spending millions of dollars through our grants to retrain teachers, why wouldn't we put a greater emphasis to have more of that in their training as opposed to us having to retrain every teacher that comes out into the approach that we wanted as KDE, I guess.
Well, absolutely. And so the early, so educator preparation programs, sorry, we refer to our acronyms EPPs, our preparation programs for that first notation there. But yes, so the next phase, so the initial trigger is the recommendation of the assessment component to EPSB. And so at Monday's meeting, Dr. Diebel was able to present a similar presentation to the board. This was their first reading of the recommendation. And then in December, the board will consider what assessment action they want to approve to meet the legislation that is due to enact in January 2024. As far as the next phase of work then gets into the actual programmatic aspect that you just mentioned. So letters is quite an intensive training. It is over the span of 2 years. And I think the concerns coming from the input with our programs is just simply if the letters was just replicated within the coursework of the programs, it would simply, I guess the question is what do you want us to remove from other content areas? as they are offering the elementary education, which is, of course, going to have a host of content areas that they are required to cover as well. And so simply it is a time manner in terms of just doing a letters training replication within their coursework. So the concern is just simply time and the ability to get the candidates through all the coursework that they're required to do currently. So that's the concern in terms of the letters as a training as a whole. However, there is consensus, and I think the conversations that we've engaged in is what components of this training fit or are already present within the program of studies currently, and where are the gaps that can be filled with what we're learning from the training as well.
Yeah, I would just say I would hope that, that would occur over time. Experience has been that they'll say this, and this already fits into the program, and we're going to continue to produce and have the results that we have. Our districts and our teachers are really dependent on the training that teachers have. And for X number of years, we've shown dismal results in improving reading. And now we have districts that's utilizing letters, and we're seeing increase. And we just can't continue another 10 to 15 years of not, I'm not going to sit here and say I'm an expert on what the colleges are preparing our early elementary teachers. But if we don't get reading right and we don't get math right, the others don't matter. We've got to make changes. And I just don't, I applaud you on trying to make changes. I just don't see these going far enough in teacher preparation for us to make an improvement in reading that we need to, for, especially as Dr. Thompson talked about earlier, underrepresented minorities. We only have, 20% of our kids reading on grade level right now. And I applaud you on making efforts, but I just don't see this increasing as fast as we need it to do. So that's just my point of reference. Sure. Thank you for your work.
I also just wanted to mention too, we had the 9 people that went through, but right now letters is not open to higher ed unless it is part of a state level initiative, unless they're part of a state level initiative. So this year we have more going through training. So we also, like I said, in that midterm or final report, we may have some additional information concerning letters, but we've had limited work with it right now. So
yeah, I'm just saying, instead of having to sit for 3 tests that they have to take and prepare for 3 tests, it might be better that they go through letters training or something else with a competency that we know that they're teaching better, because we know the test does not necessarily say they are teaching better. We've had the same experience in mathematics, where we had teachers coming out of UK with 4.0 and then having to take remediation tests because it's coverage. I understand that. But once again, having a person major and get a math degree at UK or U of L, and then say they're not qualified to teach basic math, it's because of pedagogical skills, and we weren't aligned, and we've never aligned that, and that's why our math is there. I'm just throwing that caution out there that
So, yes, I'm going to ask Patrice to speak, and then Holly.
We're just chomping at the
Yeah, I
bit here.
can tell. Folks are-
I guess I'm confused because the elements of letters, they're steeped in phonics, phonemic awareness, vocabulary, fluency, and comprehension.
Mhm.
And then I see the comment that it has too many elements to be included in the early literacy coursework. So
I can speak to that.
okay, good. But thank you, Holly.
Okay, so it's not that the components of letters is not included in education, in the education classes, but letters itself, it counts as a master's degree. So if like a undergraduate student could not really complete letters as it is, because it has a lot of practice-based bridge to practice elements. It's a 2-year program that in our option program can count as a master's degree. So that it's just not quite appropriate. But I do believe that we will continue and elevate those components in our educator prep situations. And I think the big difference is adding more explicit instruction, more structured literacy into our programs. And then, you know how tests always drive instruction, let's face that. I mean, 5205, if they're going to pass that test, then we have to teach a lot of what is in letters because that's based on structured literacy. And that test, 5205, is very much around structured literacy.
And the other element that we're going to really look at is our field experiences. So are there things that we can put in place in field experiences that are intentional, that are building on their skills, working with actual students in classrooms that could build these skills prior to being in the classroom? So that's another thing that we're exploring is the field experience component and what elements of student teaching. And so we're just starting to get into that this October, and that's kind of this next portion of the year's work is to look at that.
So are efforts being made then to place these field experiences in the classrooms of teachers who are presently being trained in the letters?
That I can't speak to yet because we're just starting to look into things. So
start doing that.
So yeah, like I can't. Yeah, we haven't collected that data yet, so I can't really speak to whether it is or not. But that is something that we want to look at.
I mean, that'll depend. I mean,
Right.
like right now, I'm placing 28 students, and there's one person close to me that's done letters. So that's not
So
realistic.
these are early days.
Yeah.
And I think that you can tell that this board is intently focused on addressing this issue of literacy and particularly the interest of students in underserved communities. I'm just going to say that I believe that we want to work respectfully with the EPSB and be very respectful of their authority. And I want the EPSB to help us, help the EPPs understand the urgency of this issue. I also want us to be very clear that at this moment, connecting EPPs with practice is eminently doable right now. And any EPP serving any community that is not there to understand where our kids are with literacy is not a member in earnest of that community. So our matter, this is a resource that we have got to put into action to help us address a matter that exists today. And we do want to do it in a way that is respectful and nourishing of an infrastructure that has served us for a long, long time and has to now change. And so, you know, we get that this is not, we can't act with recklessness, but we do need to act with urgency. So,
And I would say that the committee, this group, I mean, you are doing a
Raising
fabulous
the
job.
questions.
You're navigating a lot of people in higher ed, and you're doing it really well.
Thank
I
you.
think we all feel, all of us that have had a voice around that table feel very heard, feel very respected. And so you're doing a great job with that.
Thank you. Yeah, we have 27 literacy experts from across the state, and I think they care very deeply about doing what you're saying, doing exactly what you said. They care very deeply about preparing the best teachers that they can. And you know, they're definitely spending a lot of hours getting into this and really focusing on what is the best thing for students while trying to also uphold legislative expectations. So,
And every elementary prep program has a representative on the group.
no, I have 27 and everyone was given an opportunity. I don't know, but not every institution sent me, but I think,
Close.
what did I send? Like 50
Right.
emails. I mean,
Right.
we
right.
did everything we could to recruit, and we said no to no one. Anybody who wanted to be a part of it was made a part of it. So we originally thought we'd have 12 or so. We ended up with 27. So it was wonderful. And they're very excited to do the work. They're very ingrained. And we see this as a multi-year, like you said, this is beginning. And it's a multi-year thing. They're committing to be a part of this process for quite a while. So
I appreciate, this is a wonderful update. All right, one
sentence.
one sentence.
In no way was I trying to chastise. I support what you're doing.
No,
I just think, I hope you feel our urgency.
yes, I definitely do.
We're all diligently passionate about this topic, and also just want to give thanks to our partners in the Office of Teaching and Learning for supporting us in the efforts and getting us into the fold. That has been crucial to also being able to at least work to honor the individuals that have been extremely engaged in this process and look to be excellent conversationalists going forward with the furthering of this work into the fall and the spring.
And we do have Mickey Ray and Christy Biggerstaff are both part of our group. So they are working with the EPPs directly as well.
So we do expect to hear updates. At some point, will any action on the part of the board be required other than, I think you can count on our diligence and interest. So, but do we need to, are we preparing for board action on this particular matter?
Not from KBE's end. We
Right.
just want you all to have information and to just have a scope from here, what has been accomplished to date and what is going to be accomplished into the spring. So perhaps later spring would be another touch point in terms of the work. And certainly we'll let Dr. Burr know when we have a good kind of place to return to you.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Thank you,
Dr. Dino. The next item, Dr. Darnell, concerns the National Board Certification, our early entry grant update, and you will introduce your colleagues on this matter, please.
I spy Matt Mercer,
You all get
Spencer
I will
County,
move, in
Billy Foster.
I'll use well, this one isn't gonna.
I can use my teacher voice.
Okay. There we go. Make sure I'm. We'll get it. So speaking of celebrations, a lot happening today, which is always needed, but this is a celebration item. And thank you for giving the opportunity to these professionals to come and talk to you today. Kentucky has had a growing and impressive presence with the National Board Certified process. So the MBCTs has been something of a point of pride for Kentucky and as a national leader in terms of the recruitment efforts and the sustainability of the program. And I think this is just simply another caveat to lend witness to this success. And that has come from an early entry grant. So the opportunity for individuals that are in their first through third year to gain early access to the National Board process. And Kentucky was chosen as the state to pilot this. So we are the only state that is in this work currently. And I am very fortunate to have individuals who are seeing the fruition of this grant that has been extended to Kentucky. So I also want to say that we have our resident expert in Jocelyn Waddle, who is all things NBCT, and her presence is all over the support of our programs, and this one in particular, as well as Ellie Gilbert here from the Division of Educator Recruitment and Development also. But just to give you a quick update, so the grant is primarily to serve for the years 1 to 3 with professional learning opportunities to guide and support through the process of becoming a national board certified teacher. It is, of course, an emphasis on the direct impact of students, impactful professional development. It is created by teachers for teachers, and it opens professional doors and financial benefits. The eligibility comes from a bachelor's degree, a valid state teaching license, and then prior to this particular opportunity, it was 3 years in the classroom setting. We currently have 70 candidates that are in the early entry grant, and they are on track to complete components 1 and 2, I believe by May. So as you can see, it's a staged process, whereas in a lot of cases, the traditional pathway would be within a 6-month-ish range if they were kind of going full bore, which is quite intense. So this is a staged process for many reasons, but all 70 are on track to complete the components in May of this next coming May. And then this is involving 20 mentors as well in terms of extending the reach and the possibilities. So I think the most important aspect of what we have here are 2 things that are worth celebrating. One, just the professional standard that comes with being a national board certified teacher, but then something I think that we are all very, very interested in, and that is coaching and mentoring. And so the 2 are present before us, and I just want to give a warm welcome and say thank you for taking the time out of your days, your classrooms, all the things that you are doing that demand you. But we have Spencer County represented here at the table, and that is Dr. Willie Foster, Superintendent of Spencer County. We have Matt Mercer as the middle school principal. We have Rhonda Cox, who is the MBCT cohort leader for the National Board Certification Early Entry Grant. We have, that's a lot to say, Logan Holbrook, who is a National Board candidate. Michaela Gabry, Gabry is a National Board candidate, and also Becca Owen as a National Board candidate. So I will stop talking and give the show to these wonderful individuals.
Thank you so much. Good morning, good afternoon. My name is Rhonda Cox, and I'm the instructional coach at Spencer County Middle School. And I am contracted with NBPTS as one of the mentors for the pilot program, the Early Accomplished Teacher Pilot Program. It's a lot to say. The pilot program for the first time ever has opened access to certification for teachers within their first 3 years of teaching. And I was lucky enough to be able to recruit 4 candidates in my own building. And be able to work with them as a mentor. And 3 of the 4 are here with us today. And they would like to share with you about their experiences so far. We're halfway through. So they've submitted 2 components. We'll get those scores in December and we will celebrate. And they're working on the other 2 components this year. We also have our biggest cheerleader and supporter with us here, Matt Mercer, our principal, who's going to share with you about the culture of support in our building that allows for this level of work to happen. A culture that he's been cultivating for nearly a decade. And Dr. Willie Foster, our superintendent, in a short period of time has already proven to be a supporter of the work that we're doing with these teachers and in the pilot program. And he's looking to the future impact for our students in Spencer County. He's already looking for ways to further support the work that MBCTs are doing in our district. And we appreciate his willingness to be with us here today too. Each of the pilot candidates would like to share with you just some insights that they've gained through the program so far. So we're going to start with Becca Owen.
Good afternoon. Today you're going to be hearing from myself and 2 of my colleagues regarding the National Board Pilot Program that was offered to us as new teachers. My name is Becca Owen, and I am in my 3rd year of teaching. I'm currently working towards National Board Certification in Music, Early Adolescence, and Young Adults. National Board's 4th core proposition states that accomplished teachers think systematically about their practice and learn from their experience. My colleague Logan and I will be the first arts and humanities teachers to certify with the National Board in our building. A large factor that I took into account when choosing this pilot program is that we are asked to delve so deeply into our own practice in our own unique and subject-specific classes. The systematic thinking referenced in the fourth proposition affects us specifically as new teachers because we are learning to reflect on our practice while we are still in a malleable stage in our careers. Learning to reflect on our teaching and seek ways to improve is a habit that we are nurturing and establishing early on. The second core proposition of the National Board states that accomplished teachers know their subjects and how to teach them to their students. As a new teacher who is passionate about their students' learning, self-criticism comes easily and can feel incredibly defeating. By recording my lesson and reviewing it with my mentor, Rhonda, during my second component, I have been gratefully forced to recognize and embrace that I am knowledgeable in my subject area and my students. This process has already positively affected my teaching. Overall, the rigorous reflection of our own practices is helping to forge us into more effective and accomplished teachers.
Good afternoon. I'm Logan Holbrook. I'm doing the NBCT program, pilot program, and I am in my third year of teaching. I am doing health and PE for early adolescents and young adults. One of the biggest factors of me doing the pilot program is the incentives. Okay, so a big reason why teachers want to advance their careers is through getting a master's degree. Okay, so for a rank change, that's one of their biggest goals is to get a rank change, and NBCT offers that to teachers who are coming out of college as an alternative to getting a master's degree. So their early access program has given us the opportunity to challenge ourselves, to critique our own teaching, and that teaching is specific to what we are teaching to our students. So NBCT is prioritizing teachers learning their own content in order to improve the success of our students, which is the ultimate goal. And the early access program has given us opportunities to do that through mentorship, and it's very awesome to be part of such a special group. On top of that, the incentives. We get a $2,000 raise and we get a rank change, but it goes beyond that. The quality of experiences that we gain from the early access program goes beyond just classrooms and sitting in a class and going through lectures and writing papers and things like that. We actually get to experience our own students, and we get to experience, seeing our students grow, and NBCT focuses on that. And I think that's very important for students coming straight out of college, because they can get that, sorry, I'm blanking. Sorry, a little nervous. They get that benefit of seeing their students grow from the stuff that they are trying to improve upon, and NBCT gives us that option. Okay, and I was actually doing my master's degree. In the middle of that, I was approached by my NBCT cohorts, and they gave me an opportunity of a lifetime to basically get a rank change with only paying a registration fee, and that's just a no-brainer for me. Get that support within my own school, and it was just a no-brainer for me. And I'm very thankful that I got to do that. And I'm very thankful that I got to come up here and speak before you guys because I've never been able to do anything like this before, and it's awesome. And I wanted to challenge myself to do it without flashcards. And I think I'm doing an all right job. So thank you guys. Thanks you guys so much.
Thanks. All right, thank you, Logan. I will be using flashcards. My name is Michaela Gabriel, and I am an 8th grade science teacher, and I'm in the 3rd year of my career. I'm currently in the middle of the national board process in early adolescent science. I'm going to explain to you why the access to the national board program was appealing to me when deciding my rank change options. Honestly, the price of the national boards program was the most appealing and deciding factor for me. When starting my profession after the global pandemic, I faced many challenges. The pandemic had burned through my savings, and as many other college students at the time, I did not qualify for the government assist programs that many people in the United States qualified for. When I completed my first year, I started looking to develop my professional career even further. While in my search, I focused on options that would be applicable, effective, and not a financial hardship. I quickly realized that I could not afford my master's financially. When I'd heard about the National Board Program's focus and the price, I was immediately relieved and excited to have the opportunity to experience this program, a program that was both teacher and student focused. I knew I was hooked on this program before I even knew about the scholarship opportunities. The National Board Pilot Program has set me on a successful path. The skills and confidence I have developed throughout the program will be things that I use for the rest of my occupation. This rigorous program has impacted the way that I evaluate my student success, provide meaningful learning experiences, and participate in our professional learning communities, such as this opportunity to speak in front of you guys today. It has also opened up doors to collaborate with my peers, obviously my cohort, my mentor, my principal, and even our superintendent. It even goes on to develop those relationships outside of our school to where I can communicate with the elementary schools in our district and the high school level as well. During my first years, it would have been easy for me to sit quietly and tread water, as many of the new teachers were told following the pandemic. But I wanted to become the best educator that I could. I have learned that through this program that an excellent and impactful teacher isn't always the one with the best classroom procedures or the one with the shiny new curriculum. It's the teacher who reflects on themselves and pushes themselves to be better for both their class, their students, and themselves. The pilot program has been the most impactful professional development that I have been able to be a part of. It has impacted my students, myself, and my school. It has prepared me for the future as I seek out my rank 1 and continue to develop professionally. You've just heard from 3 of us who are participating in this program. We actually started it all in our 2nd year of teaching. And we have proven that new professionals, teaching professionals specifically, can handle and be impacted by this prestigious program. The National Board Certification, well, I should say our recommendation, is that the National Board Certification should be left open for early access. The scholarship options should remain available, especially considering how first-year salaries remain on the low side. And while the economy and the student debt is changing, we have less of an opportunity to reach that higher education right off the bat. If it was me, I would have had to push it off for longer than I was comfortable with. Additionally, more deliberate mentorship opportunities should be explored. I think speaking for all of us, we can talk about the mentorship that was birthed through this program has proven to be the most invaluable thing we have developed throughout this past year. And while we're in the midst of our national teaching shortage, we as a teaching profession should look at ways to raise national board quality teachers for our next generation of students. That's all I got for you guys. Thank you.
Pretty well said. I also want to commend this group. Like, the definition of insanity might be using one of your fall break days to drive to Frankfurt. No offense to anybody in the room, but I think it says about this group and the culture of the middle school to speak so passionately about the national board opportunity that they've been afforded. So I am a first year and first semester superintendent. I will tell you, I left the chair of school principal. I knew that teacher shortage was real. I lived it. Coming into this job, I'm seeing a completely different spin on teacher shortage and where we are. What I would love to reiterate to this board, this is an opportunity to use programs like this to really get creative. The extended options have been nice, but they in no means have solved our teacher shortage issue. In our district, in lieu of KTIP no longer being funded, we continue to fund a new teacher mentor program for 2 years. This wonderful group all left that program and went right into the national board work. It's different. It breaks some time-honored traditions that I would beg that they're long overdue to be broken. As you've heard, there's no reason for us to make a young, eager teacher wait to their 4th year to do national board if they're willing and they can be supported and they can do the work, and they're proving that. So I know that that's just a piece of what you guys do and discuss, but I would continue to please ring the bell for us. We need the help. We need young folks like this to stay in teaching. Also, in parts of Kentucky, you know, we neighbor JCPS. They pay salaries that we can't match. This allows us to have a uniqueness to our culture in our middle school and our district where teachers don't leave. And so without this, I worry, would this group of three have been tempted to cross that boundary over for a greater salary? But now with this opportunity, you can see they can get the rank change that happens sooner. They get the mentoring and coaching that extends beyond that new teacher support. So thank you for having us. Thank you for listening to this group. I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Mercer, but I guess I challenge each of you, just help us be creative. We need it. And I know even sitting in the chair of principal, I did not see that need the same way that I do now. And it's there. And
We love shiny new superintendent.
I don't know how it's shiny. Thank you.
So, again, thank you for having us. The way this started was Rhonda Cox coming to my office day in, day out, telling me about how awesome National Board Certified process is. As a new principal in a building 10 years ago, I was learning our staff. You start looking for areas that you can grow. Being a bedroom community to Louisville and Jefferson County has its advantages and disadvantages. And I quickly understood that some of our more senior, more experienced, some of our best teachers in the building were National Board Certified. So in having conversations with them and really paying attention, coming from Eastern Kentucky in a district that this wasn't a part of a norm, I started to learn about the process and watch the process. And I quickly realized that this is some of the best professional development that I've ever seen, because it includes a piece that we often have too less time to consider, and that's reflection. These people are constantly reflecting on their own practice, and their kids do benefit from it the very next day. So we started making that become a part of our interview process. When we interviewed candidates, no matter if it was new or experienced candidates, we wanted a piece of that interview to be to go ahead and put National Board or make National Board interest on the radar of possible candidates that we selected. We now have over 12 National Board Certified teachers in our building.
Ooh.
Several that's in the process or thinking about the process. And when the opportunity came along that we could sign up for first, second, and third year, it fit into what we were already trying to establish in our school. The last thing that I'll say is this: when we talk about recruit and retain, it's monumental for administrators, leaders, superintendents, principals today to figure out how we can not only get the best talent, but to keep it. I've started looking at it a little different, that recruit and retain is two and of the same. The way that we retain people is how we are recruiting them, and how we are recruiting them at Spencer County Middle School is going ahead and out of the gate saying, we have a mentor with you that's going to hold your hand day one. We're going to give you an opportunity to not only change rank, but do it at minimal cost and with a cohort of people that you can do this with. I've seen these guys struggle. I've seen Rhonda Cox on a Saturday morning with them when they hit enter, and Logan Holbrook say, I don't know whether to be happy or sad. But that struggle created a congeniality and a bond within our building where these young people have options in education. They've already had options, and they've chosen to stay with us because of what our culture is and what we're building, and National Boards have been a huge part of that. So I just wanted to say thank you. And if we can continue the early part of this pilot, let's please do so.
Thanks, Mercer. It's not lost on me that we have something special going on at Spencer County Middle School. We've been able to recruit all four of the candidates. Maddie, who's not here with us today, they're all former students. They're our kids, and they've come back to join us as colleagues. So we also have the grow your own thing going on in Spencer County. Yeah. And they just happen to be rock stars. We have a building administrator in Matt Mercer who promotes teacher leadership. He supports NBCT work. He's always ready and willing to say yes to offer the support that I need as their mentor to do things for them. He's turned our building into a leadership factory. And his interaction and support of these young teachers is further evidence of that. And I know for a fact that doesn't happen everywhere. The NBCTs, the other NBCTs in our building, have answered every call to support these candidates because, again, there are former students and there are kids. The middle school teachers to whom they looked up are now the NBCTs. Now they know, like they're the NBCTs that I want to strive to emulate. I don't know that the level of support that we experience at SCMS is common, but I know that it has created the perfect environment for our pilot candidates to gain confidence and thrive. Spencer County is a tiny district surrounded by much larger districts, but we are a microcosm and an example of a culture of accomplished teaching that can be applied to a larger model. We feel like we have all the pieces in place, starting with top-down administrative support, strong mentoring approach, a school culture that encourages raising the bar, and a crop of young teachers who are dedicated not only to the profession, but to the students that they teach. There are young teachers all over Kentucky who could be benefiting from the same work and the change, the trajectory of our profession. And I'll leave you with the same charge that I actually gave Dr. Foster last week when we spoke, and that is to leverage your NBCTs across the state. According to the latest numbers on nbpts.org, there are currently 4,283 NBCTs in Kentucky, with an additional 104 added this past year and 1,400 candidates currently going through the certification process. Across the state, these are the teachers who have proven through their accomplished work that they have expertise in their content areas with standards and alignment, differentiation, analysis of student work. They can prove the impact of their instruction on student growth. These are your teachers who have shown that they understand the use of data to drive instruction and the use of reflection to refine their practice, create highly effective learning environments for their students. They are the problem solvers, the mind shift setters, and leverage their expertise. I would challenge you to leverage their expertise as we move forward with difficult issues ahead. Several of your board members are NBCTs and can speak to that. In addition to our state having to figure out options to get people certified to address the critical teacher shortage, I would urge you to continue to consider and promote the partnership that we have currently with NBPTS, as you said, the only state that's working with them right now on this pilot, to allow teachers early access to certification, to continue to incentivize this as an economical choice for their young teachers as a rank change, and to provide the necessary mentor support to reach every corner of the state. On nbpts.org, you can search state by state to see what the incentives for certification are, what each state offers. When you click on Kentucky, under the state highlights, it reads, the State Department of Education, the EPSB, and the Kentucky NBCT Network are partnering with each other in the national board to drastically increase the number of NBCTs across the state by building local, sustainable systems that embed the work of accomplished teaching. Thank you for allowing us the time to come today to share with you about our local sustainable system and the pilot program that is further embedding the culture of accomplished teaching at Spencer County Middle School. We'd love to answer any questions if you have any for us.
Wow. Well, let me begin by thanking you for certainly giving us a beautifully constructed challenge in your closing comment to find a way to work together to make this experience more accessible. And so clearly, I mean, there are board members that want to comment and speak. Yes, Alyssa?
Well, first, I want to commend you all because it took me 15 years to decide to go for my national board. I'm currently a candidate, and in December, I'll find out if I pass or not.
You'll have the.
No, I'm really happy at our board. December, very sad. I don't know. But it's a process, and it grew me so much as an educator. And I know that if I had I don't think I could have done it within my first 3 years of teaching. I don't know, but it's a lot of work. I know, like you were saying, sometimes it feels like you're treading water. So to put that on you all, but it sounds like with mentorship and I know camaraderie between you all, it's so nice to go down the hallway and talk to somebody. So I am excited for you all to find your results out.
Thank you. You too.
Good luck with 3 and 4 because they are doozies.
Well, we certainly have board certified teachers. This board who can speak to it and candidates. Yes, go ahead.
Very
Patrice.
quickly, I just would like to say, I want you to change your vocabulary just a little bit. As a certified teacher for 10 years, and then I renewed for 10 years. Change your vocabulary for December from I passed to I accomplished this much. Whether you accomplished full scale or not, you have accomplished a lot more than those other teachers in your building who have not been going through this process. So change that vocabulary from I passed to I have accomplished this, and then keep going.
So you
that's
know,
just my-
Patrice and Holly have the national board tattoo. If you all have. It's a secret.
Other comments?
I would
Yes, please, Joanne.
just like to say there's all over Kentucky, the rural communities and rural school systems are just quietly going about doing wonderful work. And it's just so good to see you here and to see you voicing what's happening in your building and know that you're very appreciated.
Absolutely.
I just want to say, I love the idea of a program I love, National Board, in conjunction with induction, like really bringing you up right through our profession. I can't imagine two things going together as well. So thank you for piloting this. And I was just wondering about sustainability.
Yeah, so what would it take to keep going? What are our options?
I believe, so some of these decisions will come from the national board. Right. So I believe Ms. Waddle shared with me this morning that they have decided to continue that early access. Is that correct? Without the fact, so part of the incentives that they're talking about with the pilot program, they had to pay a $75 registration fee. And then each of the components is $475. The national board paid for that. So they are paying, they have to register the 2 years. So $150, they're getting a rank change to a rank 2, I believe, for all of you. And then they will go back into, a rank 1 program. They're very motivated. So, they already have that vision of what they want next. But that was when Logan talks about it as a no-brainer. I didn't have to twist any arms. They were the 4 people eligible in our building to do it, and they all 4 jumped in. So
we would be waiting for national board to say we are expanding this program.
I don't believe that they have plans to do that at this point.
Oh, they don't.
So that would be
But they will continue to allow
early access.
But that's what I mean. So the program itself is ongoing.
It's just not
early
the
access.
grant. Yeah,
As far as the pilot goes, though, there were financial incentives. Those will know.
Right.
Those will continue, but they will open access for those 3 years. Yes, that's my understanding. So any other incentives, that would be about $2,000, for them to take on
from us.
That they didn't have to do because National Board paid for that.
So to me, a really important part of this process is you. I mean, without a good quality mentor, I don't think it would even be accessible really for a second.
I think it would be very difficult. I think that, my comments to the National Board would be, they hired 20. I think they had plans for 25, but they hired 20 mentors. We need many more mentors, and we need them. From comments that I heard this summer at we got together and talked about how it was going and that kind of thing. Mentors did not have access. I mean, I'm very lucky to have had these 4 in my building. It was easy for me to work with them, but others across the state were having to travel 30 minutes, an hour, or Zoom. You don't get the same kind of interaction that way. When I talk about leveraging our NBCTs, we do have, nearly 5,000 throughout the state that, we could leverage as mentors. But I do think you're right that that's probably a very big part of the success that we've had, just the location and being near to each other. But even within our district, as Dr. Foster talked about, we do still, kind of supplement for what we used to do with KTIP in the first and second year. And so those are possibilities for districts to do. I would say probably, we need to really beef up the numbers at least, to have them more accessible across the state for people that want to definitely do
Or
that.
maybe it would be district mentors. I mean, it seems like that's the most effective way to do
Right.
it, is if you have a mentor in a district. But
You know, given our interest here, perhaps we can ask the commissioner to help us work with EPSB and with the national board to determine what our next steps might be to bring an instrument of learning to the access of new teachers. I have been privileged to work with National Board since before it had a name,
Right.
National Board. And one of the a mantra that was often spoken within our group was, we want an assessment that is in the service of learning. And listening to your report, I have to tell you, I felt a degree of mission accomplished, except I am just in awe of what you are demonstrating as a result of your learning as a professional and your teaching as your profession. It is just inspiring. I thank the leadership support. I thank your mentorship support. And I thank us all for having a chance to learn from your experience. So please, thank you so much for taking the time to come during your fall break and inspire us with what you have already done. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much. We appreciate it, Dr. Thank you.
Included on today's agenda is a dedicated public comment segment. This segment is limited to 10 speakers at a maximum of 3 minutes each. If there are multiple members of an organization, we encourage the membership of that group to select one person to comment. A sign-up sheet has been provided. Do we have any public comment? There are no public comments at this moment. We'll now move to the presentation of the 2023 Kelly Award for Business and Education Partnership. Interim Commissioner Kenny, please facilitate this presentation.
Thank you very much. We've had a lot of celebrating over the last 2 days.
Yes.
And so it is fitting for us to kind of close with another celebration. It is my honor to talk about the presentation for the 2023 Kelly Award. Joseph W. Kelly served as a KBE member from 1989 until 1998 and provided exceptional leadership as its chair for 7 years. He was a strong leader in the early years of implementing Kentucky's nationally recognized school improvement efforts. A respected business leader and education advocate, Kelly knew firsthand the critical role the business community plays in supporting Kentucky's public education system. His career exemplifies the significant contributions that members of the business community are making in support of Kentucky students. This award is given in the fall of each year to a Kentucky business person or business who has partnered with a public school or district to provide outstanding leadership that promotes school improvement and student success. The criteria for the award include creating or sustaining strategic partnership between a business and school or district that leads to improved student outcomes, including but not limited to post-secondary success and workforce outcomes, and significant contribution to the school or a district that leads or will likely lead to increased or improved educational opportunities or improved educational, post-secondary, or workforce outcomes for students. At this time, it is my honor to announce the winners of the 2023 Kelly Award for Business and Education Partnership. And we have two, Bluegrass Community Health and Keith Schneider, President Square One. I would like to take a few moments to share what each nominator said about our outstanding awardees. First, Bluegrass Community Health Center. And this is what the nominees submitted in their application. 2 years ago, I found myself as the DPP for Clark County Public Schools at a crossroads for attendance. One issue, and this is very timely in our discussion of yesterday, one issue was that our doctor's offices were unable to get families into an appointment for weeks. We have wonderful physicians, but when it comes to sickness and the ability to be seen or not return to school in a timely manner, we needed to find a solution to this problem. I contacted an employee of the Bluegrass Community Health Center in Lexington about school-based clinics. She did have school districts as partners. We began planning in the excitement of making a great avenue for our families when a barrier for sickness, vaccination, physicals came up. I cannot truly put into words the partnership that we have collectively achieved in 2 years. The Bluegrass staff are a part of our CCPS family. I cannot think of another organization that has made more of an impact on a school district, students, staff families, and the community as they have. So congratulations to our first winner, Bluegrass Community Health Center. Also going to read our second one.
Yes.
And then we'll allow you to kind of come up and talk, okay? Our second award winner, Keith Schneider, president of Square One. And this is what the nominator had to say. Keith Schneider has a passion for encouraging aspiring entrepreneurs to dream bigger. His company, Square One, supports more than 2,400 students in the tri-state region with a mission to educate and inspire emerging entrepreneurs. For our students at Beechwood Independent Schools, Keith brings the mission to life, encouraging our students to take an idea, research it, grow it, then market it. Keith uses his startup training skills with younger kids, knowing the importance of encouraging middle school students to learn their individual strengths at a critical age. Keith works with our high school students who are enrolled in the business and entrepreneurship classes. He brings in other local business leaders and partners with our teacher, mentoring the students and giving them honest yet encouraging feedback that allows the young entrepreneurs to grow their ideas. Keith has created a company with a mission that he lives each day, and his impact on schools and local businesses will be felt for decades to come. Mm-hmm. Congratulations to Keith Schneider, president of Square One.
Yeah. Like our award winners and their companions to come to the table, please, and address the board.
I don't know if we're gonna have enough seats for all of them.
Oh,
Staying close. We gotta roll them up there.
Where are we going?
Just come up to the table there in the front. I was just saying, I don't know if we'll have enough seats for everyone. So maybe, are you all comfortable to stand?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. Okay, so I'm going to, let me make sure that I think this is Keith over here. Yeah. Because this looks like Bluegrass Community Health Center. Okay, so I have on my notes, A. Stevens Wrightson, Chief Executive Officer from Bluegrass Community Health, Rhonda Mullins, COO, and Tara Cruz, Lead Nurse APRN. And then the nominator, Christy Bush, Director of Pupil Personnel and Student Support Services of Clark County Schools, and special guest, Dustin Howard, Superintendent of Clark County Schools.
Go Cards.
Fabulous.
Go Cards.
That's great. So we're happy to, if you'd like to make a few comments, our award winner.
Sure, I don't mind to.
Okay.
I'm Tara Cruz. I'm the nurse practitioner that works for this great company. So I have to say, no disrespect to Spencer County, but I think we have the shiny best.
We like all shiny new superintendents.
But I had the honor of working with Miss Bush and Dustin Howard prior to coming to Bluegrass Community Health Center. Thankfully, we've been able to create a bond together to bring and break down barriers to healthcare for our students. Not only students, we're there for staff as well.
Mm-hmm.
But, like you mentioned earlier, the barrier of transportation, parents taking off work, getting their kids to the doctor, whether it's for well child exams, sick visits, vaccines, physicals. And thankfully, my team has come together. We have a mobile clinic that we visit each school in Clark County weekly, 3 days a week right now. And we take all care, preventative sick visits to the schools. So anything we do in the clinic, we can provide in the school system as well. So it's been a great partnership this year.
That's awesome. That is awesome. Awesome.
If I could add to that just a bit. First off, Elizabeth Kinney, who is our Director of Clinical Services, both for the school clinic and for our other clinics as well. The mission of the Bluegrass Community Health Center is to provide an accessible health home that promotes better health, better life, and serves all people with care and respect. And when I talk to our new staff about our mission, I always remind them that the accessible health home is the first part of that mission. And I think it was very intentional that we made it such, because having access to care is critical because everything else follows after that. So our opportunity, and we really appreciate the opportunity to be in Clark County with a more direct presence, that has allowed us to touch people in the school, at the school clinic and at the schools as well. So we're very, very happy to be there, and really proud that you all nominated us. But that was good. We appreciate the opportunity to be there.
Thank you. Mr. Schneider.
Yes, well, first off, thank you, Beechwood, for nominating me. It's quite an honor. I will say, I work with probably close to a dozen school districts, and they make it very easy to do what I do. So I very much appreciate that as much, or maybe more than I appreciate the nomination. But and I will say that I'm probably going to have Stephanie rewrite some of the copy on my website.
And we didn't introduce, my apologies, I didn't introduce the nominator, and that is Stephanie Layton, Business University Liaison and Program Development from Beechwood Independent Schools. So pleasure having you both here.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Don't walk off. We've got shiny things to give you. Let's make sure I give the right one to the right one, right? Okay, let's do. These are always so fun too.
Yes, they are. Here, let me hear.
Screen over there. With everybody.
Okay, we're gonna do bluegrass first. You screen, we're gonna take a picture.
I got some and one altogether, so.
Okay, so to go more on my neck, it's half like lower words. I'm going to color it when somewhere else.
And Robbie.
Box lunch to oh. They're right till Friday. Oh, that was what it was. What would you like to hear?
It's a woman after my own heart.
Like, I'd like to see.
You have broccoli in your teeth.
We're good. Yeah, we're gonna take another group shot with everybody. Thank you. Good luck, It's gonna be an awesome collaboration.
It's a good way to start.
Absolutely.
And here's your box. Oh, yeah, your box. You gotta slide it in there.
Thank you so much.
Thank you all. Thank you for coming.
2 years down the path, it's first graders become third graders and the picture is serious.
There's some award if it's spelled wrong.
Is it your second? That's when all get together for we do like a pyramid, so we don't. Well, honestly, I hadn't thought about that.
Yeah.
Let's have everybody just kind of line up on this side and then see who else needs to fit in the front. I was about to say, I think we got a few people who are kind of shorter who can fit in the front. I guess you can sit and stand up. Yeah, yeah, exactly. You have the right. Let's have everybody shift over here. Yeah. A little bit more.
So you can go.
We're good.
Thank you. Thank you all. And you know. Yes. Thank you very much. Can you take our picture? Or yes, so.
Yes, yes. Please, we do want to let our guests know that we'd be happy to join you, for you to join us for lunch. There'll be boxed lunches made available. Let's see, Elizabeth, what would be the best direction to give our guests? Okay. Yes, so if you would just perhaps escort our guests to the where the lunches are, we'll be joining you as soon as we can adjourn. Thank you so much. Oh, board, we've had lots to celebrate and lots to contemplate. Some pretty important issues to find a way to address. I appreciate your participation through all of it. I would now entertain a motion to adjourn. I so move. All right, is there a second? Okay, I'm going to call the question. All in favor of adjournment, please say aye.
Aye.
If there are any opposed, keep it to yourself. No. I think that it was unanimous. We stand adjourned.